Hi, welcome back guys. This is your sensei, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Naruto Became Kaguya Yue. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Destruction and death were everywhere, the aftermath of the Fourth Shinobi War. Families and friendships lost forever, all in the name of love. The moon goddess, Kaguya, had wanted Hagoromo Otsutsuki to pay for abandoning her. She embodied the phrase, "Hell hath no fury like a scorned woman." Centuries of conflict and loss could have been avoided if someone had taken the time to understand the deeper issues. I had that ability, and I excelled at turning enemies into allies. But what was the worth of that if I lost the 5 elemental nations in the process? Naruto-kun, Kaguya called out, pulling me from my thoughts. We apologize for all of this. We know that words cannot bring back what you've lost because of us, but we offer you a gift, a second chance to make things right. I listened attentively, hope rising within me. We can send you back in time, you and all the Jinchuriki, 2 years before you graduated as a genin. My eyes widened. Was time travel even possible? We can also free the Bijou from their prisons and give them a dimension where they can finally be free, like the toads you have a contract with. They won't disappear, they'll simply become contract animals. Each Jinchuriki will have their Bijou's contract and will still be able to communicate with them in their own mental space. You will remain the connection between them, and you will keep your red chakra and healing abilities, which you can pass off as a Kekkei Genkai. Won't that raise suspicions? When suddenly all 9 Bijou disappear from this plane of existence. I questioned, happy that Kurama would finally be free but sensing something was off. Ill child. That's why Naruto Uzumaki needs to die for this plan to work, Hagoromo said regretfully. I froze, struggling to comprehend. What do you mean I have to die? I exclaimed. You don't have to die, but Naruto Uzumaki does, Kaguya clarified. We will create a scenario in which you'll die, and the villagers of Konoha won't think much of it. They have had enough of the demon brat. I flinched at her words but couldn't deny their truth. Konoha had largely turned against me. They will believe that all Bijou are connected, and if one dies, the others will follow. We will craft a new identity for you, implanting false memories in everyone in Konoha so they won't suspect a thing. But it is your choice, what your name will be, how you will look, whether we leave you in Konoha or somewhere else if you want to hunt down Akatsuki. Naruto Uzumaki would have to die, but everyone else would come back. I could create a brighter future. No more Akatsuki, Danzo would be dealt with, and the elders would be removed from power. Kirigakure's Kage would no longer be under Obito's control, allowing them to rebuild sooner. There would be no Fourth Shinobi War, no Orochimaru, and no betrayal from Sasuke. Sasuke would live, and we could finally be together without the guilt of not being able to give him a family. What is your answer, child? Hagoromo asked. I looked up at them, these 2 beings who had caused me so much pain but were now offering me a chance to reclaim my life. Yes, I want to go back in time. What else could I say? A appealing girl with long silver hair and blue eyes crossed another name off her blacklist. Sasori, Kisame, Dara, Kazu, Haiden, Tobi, Obito. 6 S-class bounties. I could live comfortably for the rest of my life with all this cash. Ensuring my genjutsu was still in place, I left the building, needing to cover my tracks to protect my identity. The only one I wanted to know was Nagato, so I left a clear trail for him to follow. I patted Shina, one of the foxes from my contract, as we headed back to town. I needed some rest. This past year had been spent tracking down every member of Akatsuki while avoiding Itachi for obvious reasons. Thankfully, Zetsu was back and on my side, helping me evade the Uchiha on several occasions. I had become a formidable shinobi during the Fourth Shinobi War, but Itachi was still on a whole new level. Once I reached the motel where I was staying, I dispelled my genjutsu and took a refreshing bath before lying down on the futon. Knowing that Pain and Konan were still a few hours away, I decided to contact the other Jinchuriki. It had been weeks since I last spoke to them. It's been a while, guys. How have you been? I called out once I reached our meeting point within myself. The only ones present were Fu and Chomei, Utakata and Saiken, Yagura and Isabu, and Gaara and Shikaku. It seemed the others were busy. Busy, but there's less pressure lately. It took a while, but my people finally believe that I'm back to my original self and that all those horrible things I did were due to a strong genjutsu, Yagura replied, rubbing his shoulder. By the bags under his eyes, I could believe the tough time he had been having. It helped that I took Mei as my second in command. The holder of 2 Kekii Genkai standing by my side had many clans coming out of hiding. Things at Kirigakure are better. They are proceeding slowly, but we are looking more like a united village than a bunch of murderers running wild. Though, economically, we are still weak. Don't worry about that. In a year and some months, I will solve that. Just be patient, I assured him. Easier said than done. It's not like you are a Kage and have a whole village demanding you to solve all their problems, he snapped at me, making us all giggle. I am being serious here. Did you deal with Toby yet? Him gone will calm things over here quite a lot. My guard is worried I will fall back into another genjutsu. Mei does not leave my side for more than a couple of minutes. She's even sleeping in the room next to mine. Yeah, I just handed his body and collected his bounty. Don't worry about it, I replied. Good, he sighed, leaning against Isabu's tails. What about you, Fu Utakata? I asked them. Better, thanks to the fact that the Mizukage is free from the genjutsu. I am no longer a missing nin and don't have to live in hiding. I even brought Hataru with me back to Kirigakure. I can finally fulfill my promise and teach her all I know, Utakata shared, a lovesick smile on his face. Utakata, wait until she comes of age, please. We do not want you getting into trouble, I commented, gaining a splash of water from him and his bijou, but it was totally worth it. The village still doesn't trust me, at least the civilian side. They stopped kicking me out of the shops or glaring at me, but years of shunning take a while to get over. As I no longer have Chomei with me, they stopped locking me up, and the shinobi of my village finally treat me as one of their own. I just hope the civilians do that as well, she replied softly, a hint of sadness in her voice. Chomei quickly covered her with wings, trying to comfort her. It broke my heart to see her so sad. I also miss my wings. I loved flying. Fu, if you are fed up with their treatment, you can always come to Kirigakure. You have my word that you'll be welcomed and protected, Yagura offered her in his Mizukage's voice. Thanks, Yagura. But you all understand that I simply cannot leave my village. I will work hard and try to win them over. This time around, things will be different, she said with conviction. That's the spirit, Fu. I cheered. Thanks, Naru. Sorry, I mean you, she corrected herself. Goodness, it's hard to remember that you are a girl now. Don't worry, it took me months before I stopped flinching every time I looked at myself in the mirror, I confessed, ignoring the snickering around me. What's going on in Suna, Gaara? Nothing much. For them, the prodigal son returned. I was exorcised from all evil. Everything I've done while Shikaku was still inside of me was not really me but a devil possessing the body of the Kazekage's son. Now I am welcomed back with open arms and smiles, much like I was while I was the Kazekage. The fact that I am the only one that possesses the sand release apart from my father and the next in line for the Kage title influenced a lot. Thank you for asking Kaguya to send me back earlier than you guys. That way, my uncle was never sent to assassinate me and he's still alive. Gaara thanked me, his eyes full of gratitude. My siblings and I are close now, but things with my dad are still bad. I may no longer be a demon in his eyes, but I am still the son his wife died giving birth. Your dad is difficult, you know that, don't you? I commented. Yeah, I do. But we can't choose family, can we? He replied. Touché, my friend, touché, I said. What about you? How's life as a bounty hunter? Fu asked eagerly. Quite satisfying, really. I am set for life. I have so much cash I don't know what to do with it. I crossed out all the Akatsuki members from my blacklist and am waiting for Pain, Nagato, and Conan to hunt me down. So I can snap them out of their state, I told them. Good luck with that, Yagura snorted. Yeah, laugh all you want, but I did it once, I can do it again. I stuck out my tongue at him, knowing it was childish but he had annoyed me. Talking about Akatsuki, it's time to return to the other plane of existence. They are here already, Kurama warned me. It's showtime, I smirked, ready to face them down. So you've been the one collecting the bounties on my members' heads, was the first thing Pain said as he slipped into my room. That can't be right, you can only be 10 years old? 11, thank you very much. And you can't really fault me, you might have kept it a secret from them, but we both know that the bijou are not dead, and I simply cannot let you go hunt them down as you wish, I replied. And it's quite impolite to barge into a lady's room like that. How do you know that? He demanded, his Rinnegan flashing dangerously. How did I know that? Well, I can show you how, I said, smiling slyly. Before either of them could blink, I grabbed Pain's head, knowing that Pain and Nagato were connected by the path of 6 sages. I forced him into my mental plane and showed him his future in the previous timeline. Not long after, Conan and I were against the wall with his chakra-induced papers, while she tended to her friend worriedly. Pain, are you okay? She asked, concerned. When the only response from her companion was a groan of pain, she turned towards me, glaring angrily. What have you done? I showed him his death, I replied simply, unbothered by my precarious position. Nagato, you once said that the sequel is always less popular than the first or third book, that it's a failure. I disagree. You weren't a failure. Yes, you lost someone precious to you, but you made him proud. Amigakure rose from the ashes of a fallen village into a appealing phoenix. You made that. You can stop all this nonsense now and focus on what's important, your village. Aren't you a Kage? Also, focus on your health a bit. None of us want you to become a shadow of your former self again. What nonsense are you talking? Conan spat furiously. Take him out of whatever jutsu you've placed on him, or you'll regret it. Conan, stop. Nagato spoke through Pain's lips. Naruto, it's good to see you again. Though you've changed quite a lot. Don't I know it? I replied, smiling in relief. Nagato was back, and I was glad not to be choked by paper anymore. Conan, please leave, he asked her. Trust me. He cut her off when he saw her about to protest. Grudgingly, she obeyed, sending me a nasty glare as she left. I will put my agenda back in order, don't worry. But I don't believe you crafted this situation simply for this. What do you need from me? Nagato asked. Well, Kirigakure is a bit weak right now, and having a treaty with you will help them quite a lot. It will help you too. You guys are strong but very closed off, it's time to open up. The Mizukage is also back from the future and aware of our conversation, I began. It's a good idea, and you are right, he conceded. Though, you are also going to ask me to send Itachi and Zetsu after Orochimaru, aren't you? He inquired. I am that obvious? But yes, he needs to go. He is very slippery, and I have no idea where he is hiding. Kabuto too. We need Itachi distracted from you. He can't notice all these changes and notify Konoha. While they are at that, you need to find proof of Danzo's treachery, how he conspired with the previous Amicage against the Hokage. Treachery during war is punished by death, which would eliminate him and the elders' power with him, because I am sure they knew about it. I can do that. I can even tell Itachi that I plan on sending him to kill Danzo as retribution for assassinating my best friend and making Amigakure suffer. That way, the Hokage will finally find out about Danzo's treason and do the dirty work for me. Itachi can even return to Konoha as a hero, and maybe we can get an alliance out of it, Nagato thought aloud. Something else? I asked. Yes, here. I handed him a scroll. Inside is Obito's eye. Itachi already has his cousin's eye, and with this one he can finally have a full eye surgery to stop his blindness and sickness. Say that you killed the bounty hunter after you guys and got this as a present for him. To congratulate him for his loyalty, or something like that. Smart. No one will be looking for you anymore that way, Nagato said, taking the scroll. I do have to cover all my bases, I replied. Also, here is the name of Sasuke's team while he was away from Konoha. They must already be at Orochimaru's laboratory. If you can save them, I will really thank you. Karen is an Uzumaki, like you and me. Our village fell during the Second Shinobi War, but Amigakure can be our clan's new home. You can repopulate it there. And I'm sure Conan will love helping you out with that. I added with a sly smirk, snickering at his blushing cheeks. Shut it, he snapped at me. By the way, Naruto, what do I call you now? After all, Naruto Uzumaki died in a fire 1 year ago. You can call me Kaguya Yue. Konohagakure stood tall and appealing, the strongest hidden village in all the 5 elemental nations and my home. It had been a year since I had been home, but it still felt like yesterday that I woke up in my broken apartment and headed towards training ground number 7 to meet with Sakura-chan and Kakashi-sensei. Nostalgic memories brought tears to my eyes, and instead of holding them back like I usually did, I let them flow. I never was a very good actress, and this would help me with my cover. Welcome to Konohagakure. May I bother you for your name and identification, please? As soon as I passed the gate, I was greeted by Izumo and Kotetsu. Suddenly, my mind was flooded with foreign memories. Memories of you, of when Izumo, Irika-sensei, and Kotetsu used to babysit her while they were still genin. I thanked Kaguya for keeping Irika-sensei in my life. It seemed that in this life, he also played a similar role as when I was Naruto. You! Kotetsu exclaimed, rushing to my side and enveloping me in a tight hug. Goodness, girl, what happened to you? Are your parents? They are gone. I lied through my teeth, but luckily they didn't notice. Kotetsu tightened his hug, and Izumo joined in. I cried against his chest, mourning not just my false parents but all those I lost during the Fourth Shinobi War. You, darling, have you calmed down yet? Izumo asked gently, patting my head. Come, sit down. He guided me to his seat and laid me there carefully. Can you please tell us what happened? Orochimaru happened. I sobbed. Izumo and Kotetsu exchanged grim looks, their bodies trembling slightly. It warmed me to know how much they cared about me, that they would worry to the point of shivering. Do you think you are up to talking with the Hokage? Izumo asked, trying to smile reassuringly but failing due to his worry. Will you 3 be there for me? I stuttered. They didn't need to ask who the third person was before calling for a shinobi to fetch Irika-sensei. They carried me all the way to the Hokage Tower, and I didn't let go of Izumo until I saw Irika-sensei rushing towards us. I jumped into his arms, holding him tightly as I cried once more. My child, do you think you are ready to tell us what happened to you? Gigi spoke softly, his eyes filled with guilt and concern. He always hated not being able to protect his people, especially when it was at the hands of his favorite student. Where do I start? I asked, finally on the ground but still holding onto Irika-sensei and Izumo's hands, with Kotetsu behind me, a comforting hand on my head. Why don't we start from the beginning? Why did you and your parents leave Konoha? He inquired. My parents were herbalists. They sold medicinal herbs and ointments at their shop in the market and had permission to tend to civilians since the hospital was short on doctors. They handled everything from scratches to sprains to headaches, just daily things. I was being trained to take over the shop, so when the opportunity arose to study herbs in the wild, I jumped at it. We left to gather special herbs and discuss business with associates outside of Konoha. But on the way we were attacked. By Orochimaru? Gigi asked, needing confirmation. That's what he called himself, and there were many purple and white snakes. If I'm not mistaken, they are his animal contract, I replied. Yes, they are, he sighed. What happened next, my child? We were taken to an underground laboratory. He killed both of my parents. In front of me, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but in the silent room, it resonated. He said they were useless. I thought I was going to die too, but it seemed I was useful to him. Useful? What did he mean by that? Gigi asked, confused as were the others in the room. Can I show you? I asked, letting go of Izumo and Irika-sensei's hands to take a kunai from Izumo's pouch. Without waiting for a reply, I slashed my palm open. You! Kotetsu, Irika, and Izumo yelled in unison. Have you lost your mind? Irika-sensei exclaimed, concern filling his eyes as he reached for my hand, ready to bandage it, but froze in place. What the? All 4 of them stood still, watching as my hand healed itself in less than a minute. So, that's what Orochimaru was after, Gigi commented thoughtfully, smoking his pipe. I might be the third generation from Konoha, but the first one here ran away during the Second Shinobi War from AIM, trying to save the last two of our clan from the civil war there. They disguised themselves as civilians and hoped their genes would pass down. I am the first and only of my clan in 3 generations. Or at least that's what Orochimaru said. What is your clan's name? And what does it do exactly? Gigi asked. I don't know the clan's name, Orochimaru never mentioned it, and neither my parents nor I were aware of our past. As for abilities, it seems I have a second chakra of red nature. I heal. Nothing short of a fatal injury can kill me, I shared. A second chakra? That's similar to the Hatake clan. And nothing short of a fatal injury? My poor child, what did he do to you? He inquired, more worried than before. I felt Kotetsu, Izumo, and Irika tense behind me as they awaited my reply. He tortured me, Tokasama. He needed to know the extent of my healing. He stabbed me, burned me, drowned me, damaged my chakra coils, electrocuted me, and even severed my arm, running his hand through my chest, very close to my heart. The temperature in the room dropped with each word I spoke. I had never seen Gigi so angry before. Then again, he had never met a living survivor of Orochimaru's experiments. But no matter what he did, I healed. It's as if my second chakra has a life of its own and wouldn't allow me to die. It even grew my arm back from scratch. My child, you've been through so much. I am so sorry this happened to you. You shouldn't have had to endure all of that, he said, moving closer to pat my head gently. But how did you escape? There was a bounty hunter who came one day while Orochimaru was out. He wanted to claim the bounty on the snake Sanin's head. Noticing that I was important for Orochimaru's research, he took me with him as he burned the whole place down. I wanted to return, but he did not let me go. I was the bait he needed to lure Orochimaru out of his hideout. We traveled all around the 5 elemental nations, him claiming bounty after bounty. It seemed he had something against Akatsuki. Gigi tensed at the mention of the organization he had a spy on. He claimed 6 bounties from them, and when he was about to finally strike Orochimaru, someone attacked him, calling himself the Amikage. I did not stay to listen to their argument. It was the first time someone could stand up against the bounty hunter, so I took it as my chance to run away. But from what I heard, Akatsuki worked for the Amikage or something like that. Sorry for throwing you to the wolves, Nagato, I thought. Well, what is important right now is that you are back home again, my child, the Hokage finally said. This might be hard to talk about. But did someone during your time in captivity touch you inappropriately? My 3 guardians stilled behind me, giving off a tense energy that I had to act afraid of to maintain my cover. Noticing how uncomfortable I was, they calmed down and hugged me. No one hurt me, Hokage-sama. They were more interested in my power than in my body, I assured them. Thank Kami for small miracles, Gigi sighed, a bit happier now. Until you can get back on your feet, I am sure that Irika won't mind having you stay with him. I wouldn't, he replied, hugging me to his side and smiling kindly down at me. You must go to the hospital. I don't care if you can heal yourself. We need to make sure you are 100% healed. Also, you will have to go to therapy sessions, all paid by Konoha. Don't worry about it, he commanded. Hi, Hokage, I replied. Hokage-sama, may I request something? What is it, my child? He inquired gently, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. May I join the academy, please? I never wish to be in such a precarious situation again, and I want to make sure no one else suffers like I did, I requested, surprising everyone present. After all, you never wish to be a shinobi, preferring to heal rather than to kill. You do understand, my child, that those of your age are much more advanced than you, and you will be quite behind? Gigi asked gently. I appreciated Gigi's kindness, but I loathed being treated like a child who did not understand anything. I know. But they also did not have Orochimaru threatening them with punishment if they did not become the perfect little soldier he desired. My words froze them all. My second nature chakra got his attention as much as my healing abilities, and he needed to see how much they could do. He couldn't achieve that with a civilian. He needed at least someone at the genin level. I can assure you, Hokage-sama, that I am a genin in anything but name. Abilities I do not lack, but knowledge is the problem. Orochimaru did not care to teach me about theory. Then, Iruka will test you and see if you can join the students of your age range after your visit to the hospital, Gigi conceded. And I apologize again for the actions of my student. It's okay, Hokage-sama. I do not blame you. It is his doing, not yours, I replied, taking Iruka-sensei's hand again as we left the Hokage's office. Third objective achieved, mission success. It felt good to be back home. I smiled internally, happy that my plan had fooled them all and getting ready for the next steps to take. This had only just started. As I expected, I was healthy and passed Iruka-sensei's test with flying colors, and I was expected to return for one last year at the academy after summer vacations. Kotetsu, Izumo, and Iruka-sensei blamed themselves for not having been able to protect me and made a promise to never let that happen again. I felt a bit guilty about lying to them, though it was for the best, but I was very touched by their care and felt protected by them, even though I was much stronger than all three of them combined. I assured them that Konoha was safe and that going out on my own wouldn't lead to me getting kidnapped. Again, the villagers. Well, they were a whole new story. Instead of being glared at and sneered at, they welcomed me with open arms and words of comfort. It seemed that the death of my parents had spread across the village quickly, but my time of captivity was still kept hush-hush. I was so overwhelmed that I fled away, running as far as I could until I ended up in front of a very familiar gate. I had reached the Uchiha compound. Sasuke's POV, perfect. All I needed to complete this day was another fangirl who had to stalk me all the way to my home. I groaned internally, glaring the famous Uchiha glare at the silver-haired girl's back. Hey! Scram! I sneered. The girl squealed in shock and turned around in haste. I was about to snap at her again, wanting her to leave faster, but I stopped in shock. The girl was appealing, with long silver hair that glittered under the sun, delicate curves that accentuated her femininity, perfect skin, and wearing a stylish yet comfortable kimono suitable for fighting. But what attracted me the most were her baby blue eyes. They were like two sapphires. They showed every single emotion that the girl felt. I had never met someone so expressive. Watch it. I didn't even plan to get here. All I wanted was to get away from the village and their pitiful gazes, she snapped back at me, making me raise an eyebrow in slight surprise. She was the first girl I met who didn't fawn over me or shiver in fear. Interesting. It's as if they've never seen a kid who's lost every single family member before. Hello, they are called orphans. I flinched slightly at her words but quickly masked my reaction. However, she noticed and turned her gaze toward me. She had talent. Finally, no more wannabe kunoichis who cared more about boys than training. So, you are the girl the village has been talking about all week. The one whose parents were killed by a missing nin, I commented, impressed when she didn't even wince. She was strong. Orochimaru, if we want to get into specifics, she replied, spitting the name as if it were poison. Her expression was filled with hate and the promise of pain, the temperature dropping at the mention of her parents' killer. She was like me, an avenger who lost everything in one night. She understood my loneliness, my pain. I'm sorry, she said. I was about to yell at her that I didn't need her pity when she continued, I mean, I cannot understand what you felt that day. It wasn't an enemy ninja who came and killed your clan but your own brother. Your trust was betrayed by the one you loved the most. That must have been painful. You must have felt so alone. I wanted to be your friend then, not out of pity but because everyone needs someone. However, you changed into someone I did not recognize. Someone dark and lost. I was afraid of you. I blamed your brother for the massacre, but I also blamed you for allowing him to have such a tight grip on your life and ruining all chances of ever being happy again. I glared at her, trying not to think about how much her words were right. At least, until I myself got consumed by the same darkness, and all I could think of was the demise of my enemy. Can you understand the feeling of knowing that the death of those you hold dear was all because someone wanted your power? I can't, I answered honestly. It pained me knowing that Itachi killed our family and left me to suffer, but I always knew it was not my fault but his. If they had died because of me, It would have destroyed me. That's what happened to you? I asked, eyes widening in realization. We were both creatures of the same darkness. It might be a consolation knowing that we were not alone, but we could never fully understand each other's pain. Deep down, I hoped it would never be possible. What kind of power do you possess that he would want? I asked, intrigued. She looked at me as if assessing me before lowering herself to the ground and taking a rock. She then cut her palm open. I tensed at her reckless action, about to shout at her, but stopped when her skin began to regenerate rapidly. That's useful, I commented. That's one way to put it, she chuckled. Though it does make you feel kind of indestructible. I chuckled slightly at that before composing myself again. Hey, Sasuke, what would you do to gain power? Would you close yourself off from the world in fear of being betrayed again and solely focus on the task of vengeance? Would you walk your own path of darkness and loneliness, forsaking any chance of ever being happy again? Is it worth it, Sasuke? Her eyes were full of pain but not weak in the slightest. If anything, they were steady and filled with power. I would do anything, no matter the cost. This is a path I have to walk on my own, I answered, almost mechanically. It had been years since I thought of anything other than killing Itachi or questioning whether there might be another way to defeat him. Then this girl, whom I had never met before, came and sprung these questions on me. What else could I have answered? Even if I might be starting to doubt it, it was all so sudden that I did not have time to think. Well, if you are so sure, she sighed, suddenly taking a kana from her long sleeve and slitting her throat open. A cry left my lips before I knew it. The only other person I knew who understood me was gone. And I was all alone once again. My eyes burned. I didn't even bother to keep the silent tears at bay. I hadn't even noticed the light that had appeared in my dark life or the relief it was to have someone else in it. Until it was gone. Her words resonated in my head. Is it worth it, Sasuke? No, it isn't worth it, I murmured, empty eyes gazing down at the body in front of my compound. Good, it seems that you've finally learned your lesson. I was startled when the previously lifeless body began to speak. Did you forget? Kekei Genkai. It takes much more than this to kill me. She then took out a small mirror and showed me my reflection. She had awakened my Sharingan. This kind of way to gain power is not worth it. You! I screamed in anger before tackling her to the ground and punching her. A punch that she gladly returned. I do not know how long we fought, but when we ended, we were both bruised, dirty, and exhausted. This was the first time someone could keep up with me. It was exhilarating and liberating. So much tension and anger had left my body. Looking across the street at the grinning girl leaning tiredly against the opposite house, I understood that this was her objective all along. What a sly and annoying girl. But lesson duly noted, I thought with a small grin. What's your name? I asked the silver-haired girl, realizing that I did not know her name. Kaguya Yue, she answered. Do you want to know a secret, Sasuke? She asked, a sly smirk on her face, but the seriousness in her eyes made me take her seriously. Orochimaru wasn't the only one who attacked us. He had a companion. A companion that I later killed. My eyebrows raised in surprise at the revelation. My parents did not come back after he died, Sasuke, and neither will yours. I spent a whole year away from home, only thinking about killing him. Only when he was dead did I realize how foolish I had been. That was not what my parents would have wanted from me. My revenge was not for them but for myself. Her words struck a chord in me because of how true they were. Killing them will make us feel better and more secure, but let's not think that it will bring our families back or do it in their name. That will only disgrace their memory. This path of revenge does not have to be walked alone. What do you say, Sasuke? Let's get stronger together, not only for revenge but to protect those we love. Let's start letting people in slowly but steadily, let in the light, and defeat those who threaten us together. So, when our mission is over, we will have people to return to, a life to live, not just revenge. This time, I did not even try to hide my surprise. I looked down at my bloodied hands and thought before speaking. All this time, I thought I had to claim my revenge on my own for my family's peace. But how much was it really for them and not to calm my rage and pain? I touched my eye and realized that the price for power was one I did not want to pay. Hurting others, especially those close to me, would only make me like Itachi. I did not want that. You've got a deal. But we better start training tomorrow ASAP. I cannot let you slow me down, I finally answered, giving her the Uchiha smirk as I stood up and walked toward her. Shut it, team. I will become a greater ninja than you could ever wish to be, believe it, she shouted, but her smile told me she was not really angry. You stood up and walked toward me. We met each other halfway. She raised her fist, waiting for mine to follow, and it did. Something clicked then. I couldn't name it, but it simply felt right. 1 week passed quickly. The first thing we did was buy weights. We needed to increase our endurance and stamina fast. Especially me, as I was still getting accustomed to a female body, which was much more delicate than I had expected. While I pointed out the flaws in her academy taijutsu, flaws from the fact that no one had taught it to her correctly, she taught me some chakra control exercises, climbing trees and walking on water. By the end of the week, I was already mimicking her taijutsu perfectly, and she was running to the top of a tree before jumping into a lake, doing it all over again. We also showed each other our own kata, I the Uchiha one and she the Senju kata. Of course, she did not know it was from the Senju clan. I felt bad for practicing this kata, even though it was Bachan who had given me all her taijutsu scrolls. It's not like I could use the Whirlpool Uzumaki kata, that would be a dead giveaway of my facade. Going back to my training with you, I was able to help her see a flaw in her technique, that without the Sharingan, it could get her killed. The problem with the Uchiha is that they wait too much. It took me a while to get it through her thick prideful head, but I finally got her to train without using her eyes. Then she was able to see what I was talking about and correct it. My kata training was hard too. I had only seen half of the material from the scrolls with Bachan before she was killed by Madara. But surprisingly enough, Yu was there by my side, giving me tip after tip. I can't let you slow me down, now can I? Was her answer when I questioned her about it, though her red ears were a dead giveaway of her true feelings. It still brings a smile to my face every time I remember that moment. As I walked down the road toward the Uchiha compound, I heard some sniffling coming from a bush. Curious, I stopped and followed the sound, and I was surprised to find Hinata Hyuga crying. My heart ached at the sight. Hinata had always been my strongest supporter, the one I could always count on. I felt ashamed for not having given her the attention she deserved, instead wasting it on someone else. I shook my head, trying to push away those troubling memories, and stepped forward. Hey, are you okay, Hyuga-san? I called out softly, not wanting to startle her. Data, she began, stuttering and barely breathing through her sobs. Hey, why don't we calm ourselves down first? It's okay to cry, that doesn't make you weak in the slightest. That was all she needed to hear before she cried even harder. I quickly took her into my arms, letting her cry on my chest. I wasn't sure how long we stayed like that, but I had to send a shadow clone to practice weapon accuracy with Sasuke. Now, don't you feel better? Keeping things bottled up isn't healthy. Talking things out, on the other hand, is, I told her, giving her a kind smile and caressing her hair. Would you like to talk to me about whatever's bothering you? I won't judge, no need to be shy. She stopped, gazing deep into my eyes with a seriousness and determination that the young Hinata wouldn't have been capable of achieving before. It seemed that Naruto's death had given her a wake-up call, just as it had for me in the original timeline. My father wants me to fight my sister to see who is better suited to be the head of the clan, she confessed, her stutter less pronounced than it had been at her age in my timeline, her eyes dropping to the floor in shame. I don't know what to do. I don't want my sister to be used or pressured like they did to me. But I also don't want to hurt her. I get it. Being faced against family is a horrible thing, and no one should have to go through that. Your father is wrong for making you girls do that, I said, my anger slipping through as I ignored her startled expression at my words. I had always disliked that rigid Hyuga. However, you need to stand strong, Hyuga-san. See this as a spar, a practice session. But don't go easy on her out of fear of hurting her. You are protecting her, aren't you? From the elders, but also from the enemy ninjas out there. If you go easy on her, she'll believe everyone out there is weaker than her, and that could lead to trouble. Do you want your sister to be in danger? I felt bad for being so harsh, especially when she flinched at my words, but she needed to grow up faster. I recalled Hinata telling me that the elders and her father had lost faith in her as a leader during this. If we could change this, who knows what the outcome for the Hyuga clan could be? The better one, I hoped. But what can I do? She asked softly, her voice steady. I was taken aback by the resolve in her tone. Then I remembered how she had stood up against pain for me and how she was now finding courage for her sister. You are not strong enough or courageous enough to stand up for yourself, which is why everyone underestimates you. But it seems like there's a fierce lioness waiting to pounce on those who dare to hurt her precious people, I said, ignoring her look of surprise. I met someone like that once. Naruto Uzumaki. The mention of his name caused her to wince, but she remained silent. It didn't matter how much he was belittled or mistreated, he never got angry. But when his precious people were involved, he used that anger to fuel him, giving him the strength and resolve to stand up even against those stronger and scarier than him. I turned my gaze toward her, who was looking at me attentively. I believe. No, I know you have that strength within you. Her eyes widened in disbelief, but I could see a fire igniting in them, something that filled me with hope. So wake up that lioness and show them what you are capable of. Don't stutter, because you have nothing to be ashamed of. Your thoughts will not be oppressed. If you need to pause before speaking to formulate the right sentence and gain strength, that's okay. Here, I said, giving her my pearl bracelet. Touch it whenever you need reassurance that you are not alone. Speak out, that's the only way anything will ever change. Not only with clan matters but with family. Bad communication leads to misunderstandings. Do you want to practice with me before you face them? Yes, please, she answered after a small pause, her determination shining through. We fought against each other for quite a while. I even had a few shadow clones attack her silently, only to discover she sensed them coming. This sensed not saw. Hyuga-san, stop, I called out. I noticed something. Your taijutsu is perfect, but it doesn't suit you. You are like water, fluid and flexible. Your kata is like a tree waiting to break, not to mention very predictable. Why don't you mix it up a bit? Add your fluidity and flexibility to the kata. That will fix the predictability problem. Also, you have a lot of latent talent as a sensor. You know there are different ways to see, don't you? Your eyes are simply a tool, they do not define you. Ninjas use tools, they are not one. Hinata looked at me, surprised. It seemed no one had ever told her that before. Want to go again? It seemed that things were going to work out just fine, I thought, just as I received a surprisingly strong hit from Hinata. Hinata's POV, I smiled to myself as I rushed toward the Hyuga compound. I was dirty, tired and sore but content at the same time. Kaguya Yue, my new friend, had awakened the will of fire inside me. I was still afraid of facing my father, but I knew that I could do this. I touched Yue's bracelet tenderly. No need to cause big changes yet, baby steps. I quickly entered the training room, ignoring the disapproving looks regarding my appearance, and prepared for the fight. It seemed my father had taken it upon himself to ensure I would embarrass myself in front of the entire clan. Every elder and their branch servants were present. Even Niji-Nizan was there. My nervousness returned, but I held on to Yue's bracelet and calmed down. I was no longer alone. I had someone supporting me. I was doing this for my sister, not for myself. Come on, lioness, wake up. I urged myself. It felt as if something snapped inside me, taking control. I barely noticed my father starting the match, I only sensed my sister's presence. So, this is what you meant when she said we could see. Without eyes, I thought. I didn't even bother to activate my Byakugan. I knew I could win this fight without it. Besides, I wanted to make a silent statement that my dojutsu does not define me. I used my flexibility to fluidly evade her attack before firming my stance and striking her hard enough to send her flying toward the wall, knocking her out. I had always been good at controlling chakra, and now I could put it to good use. The silence was deafening, the tension in the air was palpable. As always, it was my father who broke the silence, his glare fixed firmly in place, surely angry that I had hurt his favorite child. What was that? He asked, anger clear in his tone. That was not our kata. I schooled myself, I would not flinch. I took my time, as you recommended, to formulate my answer and gather courage. I refused to let them pressure me into replying before I was ready. I gripped Yu's bracelet firmly and took a deep breath. Our kata is perfect, there is no questioning that. But that does not mean it's unbeatable or even favorable in most situations, I said, feeling a bit of pride when I noticed their startled expressions. What can we truly do when we face someone who fights from a distance or when our opponent doesn't even rely heavily on chakra? Niji Nizen Sensei is a taijutsu MSTR. The best jounin out there are deadlier because of their own bodies, not their ninjutsu or weapons. We perfected something and let ourselves relax, but our dojutsu can do much more than simply block chakra points. We have unlimited potential, but we let it go to waste because of our pride. Many eyes widened at my passionate declaration. What will we do when we do not activate the Byakugan or when we hurt our eyes during a mission? Will we become broken ninjas? I refuse to let that happen. Our eyes are tools, but they do not define us. Ninjas use tools, but that does not turn us into one. I drew strength from the looks of understanding and approval from many members and continued my speech. To answer your question, Father, that was our kata. I simply turned it into my own. I won't be a predictable tree waiting to break because I refuse to bend. I am flexible and my moves are fluid. Why not use that to my advantage and add it to my taijutsu? I looked directly into his eyes, some of my determination fading. I tightened my grip on Yu's bracelet and tried to calm my racing heart. You are talking about changing rules set by our ancestors since our origins, he said, his voice calm, but I could see the disapproval in his eyes. I was about to panic when I recalled Yu's words. It did not matter how much he was belittled or mistreated, he never got angry. But when his precious people were involved, he used that anger to fuel him, to give him strength and resolve to stand up even against those stronger and scarier than him. I straightened my back and let all my anger at being overlooked by my father fuel me. Well, Father, you might have let your own brother die, but I will not allow my sister or any Hyuga clan member, my precious people, to walk to their deaths for my pride. That finally seemed to stun him. I ignored his wide eyes, filled with pain and confusion, and bowed. I then turned on my heels and collected my sister to take her to get checked out. Only once I was outside did I allow myself to smile and sigh in relief. Maybe taking a stand from time to time wasn't so bad. The next day, my sister and I were having a breakfast picnic in one of the many gardens in the Hyuga compound. Honestly, I did not have the courage to face my father after yesterday's spectacle, and I also wanted to bond with Hanabi. It had been a while since we were simply two sisters rather than heiresses fighting for the position of clan head. Hinata-sama, Hanabi-sama, good morning, Niji Nizen greeted us. I was not startled by his sudden presence. I was getting the hang of sensing, but I was confused. Ever since Uncle's death, Niji Nizen had never approached me on his own. I was surprised when you both missed breakfast, but now that I think about it, it was the right choice, he commented. How is Father? I finally asked, gathering my composure. He is angry as expected after yesterday, he said, raising an eyebrow. Was that impressed? When I did not flinch at his words. Honestly, many branch members, even I, are glad that the next clan head won't have her family die for her. From his tone, I knew he was repressing anger. He still believes that I am like everyone else, that I see him and the branch members as servants and not as family. If he continues down this path of anger and loneliness, his future will be a dark one. I cannot allow that to happen. I love my cousin, even if he hates me. Niji Nizen, when I mentioned any Hyuga clan member, I also meant those from the branch families, I said, trying to stay as calm as possible, drawing courage from Yu's bracelet. I recalled her words from yesterday. Bad communication leads to misunderstandings. Niji Nizen, I am sorry for Uncle's death. Both of them gasped at my words, their eyes widening in surprise at my daring choice of words. But you cannot fault me for it any longer, I continued, my voice steadier than before. This was for him, not for me. I was 3 when I got kidnapped. Yes, my father should not have allowed Uncle to take his place. He should have fought harder for what the Cloud Shinobis deserved, but he did not. I loved Uncle very much, and I feel sad for his death. You were not the only one who lost someone that day. However, we cannot continue living in the past, Nijinizan. The future is right there in front of us. We should hold tight to it and write a better ending. Nothing is written in stone, not our katas, not our traditions, not even the distinction between branch and main household. If it were up to me. No, when it is up to me, I will change it all. I won't allow what happened to Uncle to occur again. I will find a way to break the cage bird seal and set you all free, I promised him, breathing by the end of my declaration. By now, both of them were looking at me with pure shock at my bold declaration, though Nijinizan collected himself faster and schooled his expression. You know, Hinata-sama, when I met you for the first time, I could not take my eyes off you. You were this shy, delicate but appealing lily. A flower my father told me I would have to protect for the rest of my life. I was happy for that because I could not wait to see what you would become. Then my father died, and I succumbed to darkness. I, along with everyone else, were disappointed when you did not turn into what we hoped you to be, that only fueled my anger at you. However, we all forgot one essential thing. Flowers need kindness and care to grow. But even after being treated poorly, instead of withering and dying, you managed to bloom into a appealing desert flower. I could not hide my shock after hearing Nijinizan's words, especially when he did the unthinkable. He smiled. I am glad. With that, he turned on his heels and left. Congratulations, Wani-sama. Hanabi exclaimed, hugging me excitedly. We continued our breakfast in peace, then parted ways, she to her private training and I to meet with you. She had invited me to train with her and Sasuke at the Uchiha compound. Hinata, you came. You stopped mid-spar with Sasuke to greet me excitedly. Did you take me up on my training offer? She asked after hugging me. Yes, I also came to give this back to you, I said, about to take off her bracelet when she stopped me. Keep it until the day you no longer need it, she explained, smiling kindly. Sasuke, we have a new training partner. Hyuga. She will only slow us down. Sasuke complained, giving me his typical Uchiha glare. I cowered at first, but then I stopped. I had held my own against you, and from what I saw, she was better than Sasuke. Who says I can't do the same against him? Why don't you try me, Uchiha? I dared, my inner strength surfacing for a moment. He raised his eyebrow, surprised by my comeback. Then he slowly smirked, getting into the Uchiha kata stance and said, Bring it on, Hyuga. I didn't need to be told twice. After sparring against her, testing her weapon accuracy, and discovering she already knew the tree climbing and water walking exercises, Sasuke finally accepted Hinata as our new training partner. I could not stop myself from feeling giddy. This was the BRTH of a new Team 7, one that would not be cursed like the previous ones. Weeks passed quickly, and our training advanced. Not only did we improve with our clan's katas, but we also tweaked them a little. Hinata added gymnastic moves to hers. She still did not feel comfortable adding new uses to the Byakugan, preferring to take baby steps and start with simply changing the stances a bit. Meanwhile, Sasuke mixed his with the Academy's kata. I added some of the Whirlpool Uzumaki kata to the Senju one. Not that Hinata and Sasuke knew. We improved so much that we began adding weapons to our taijutsu, making us much deadlier. Hinata was especially good with it, and I considered nudging her in that direction. Our stamina and endurance spiked dramatically, perhaps because we took our weights everywhere we went. I think we only took them off to shower and sleep. One day, I brought elemental papers to see what chakra natures we all possessed. Sasuke's were primarily lightning and secondarily fire. He was disappointed that his first element was not fire, which is typical for Uchihas. Hinata's were water and earth, while mine were wind, water, and fire. Fire was only an element of mine because of Kurama's influence on my body. It was worth it to see Sasuke's jealous brooding. When it comes to jutsus, we achieved all 3 Academy jutsus perfectly. Not only that, Sasuke took it upon himself to teach us the fire release, great fireball technique, after finding its variations at the library. By the end of the 4th week of training, Hinata had mastered the water release, great water ball technique, and I had mastered the wind release, great wind ball technique. Hey guys! I called out as I approached our usual training spot. You are late, Sasuke grumbled, glaring at me. I told you I only accept you girls because I did not expect to be slowed down by you. Shut it, Uchiha. We all know you love us, so stop glaring, Hinata replied. I loved this new development. Hinata was still wary with strangers, but with us, she was a fierce lioness, much more open and confident in herself. Sasuke complained about her newfound attitude, but I knew he was proud of this new Hinata. Sorry guys, but I had to pass by the library for something. I apologized before throwing each of them a scroll. It's a containing scroll. Put some blood and chakra in it to release its contents. They both did as I instructed, eyebrows rising in surprise at all the books I had given them. First aid and elemental healing techniques? D-rank water ninjutsu? Chakra blades? Weaponry and its use in taijutsu? Konoha's katas? Hinata read aloud, confusion lacing her tone. First aid and elemental healing techniques? D-rank lightning ninjutsu? D and C-rank genjutsu? Kenjutsu for beginners. Sasuke grunted, annoyed. You see, guys, while training I noticed many things. First of all, we are all combat ninjas, which means we will get into difficult situations that will get us hurt. A lot. So we need to know the essentials of first aid and some simple healing jutsus in case of an emergency. I don't have that book, as I already possess healing abilities, and my special chakra would not allow me to heal someone else without causing them harm, I began explaining. Also, the lack of ninjutsu repertoire alarms me. I get that it is for our health, as we still do not have big chakra reserves or perfect control, but we are already prepared for them. We need to learn ninjutsu, or we will struggle out there. I only started training a year ago, and thanks to Orochimaru, I have already mastered all D and C rank wind ninjutsu. I exclaimed. But that does not explain the rest of the book? Hinata's soft voice snapped me out of my thoughts. Well, Sasuke is an Uchiha. They specialize in genjutsu, don't they? With his Sharingan already activated, he should start early. I've also seen many Uchihas carry swords. And you, Hinata, were born for taijutsu, not only your clans but any kind of taijutsu out there. Have you seen yourself fight with a kunai or any weapon? You are deadly. Your taijutsu weaponry coordination is excellent. You are a natural. I know teachers say to take our time before choosing a specialization, but if we are already good at it and like it, why not start early? What's the big deal if we change our minds later? We've only accumulated knowledge of new areas. I continued my explanation. Or you don't like my choices? No, they are fine. Surprisingly enough, Sasuke answered. What are you specializing in? And what books do you have? Ninjutsu and sealing, I replied. My big chakra reserves make me the best choice for it, and sealing is such a fascinating area. You can do almost anything with it. I exclaimed excitedly. I don't have the first aid and elemental healing techniques book, as I already said healing jutsus would only be harmful coming from me. Also, my parents owned a clinic. I can mix almost any remedy and attend to patients for anything but surgery, I shared, impressing them both, though Sasuke hit it well. I brought with me B and A rank wind jutsus and Path for an Apprenticeship in Sealing, Volume 1 and 2. Sealing has many steps and levels. There are 5 steps or volumes in books before each level. In total, there are 3 levels. When you achieve them by passing a test, you earn a title. The first level is of the Apprentice, the second one of the Seal MSTR, and the last one of the Grand Seal MSTR. Wow, that's complex, Hinata commented, and even Sasuke seemed interested. Well, sealing is a complex art and in high demand. There aren't many sealing experts out there, I replied. Oh, I also plan on teaching you guys some first aid techniques from your book today. We will see if we can have someone from the hospital help you with the jutsus, or you will have to do it on your own, as well as the cloning jutsu. But we already know that one? Hinata inquired, as it seemed Sasuke had reached his quota of talking for the day. Not exactly, The Academy's is a simple illusion. What I'm going to teach you are solid ones. Not the shadow clone jutsu, which will burn out your reserves very fast and is honestly harmful to most people. I can use it as I have the chakra reserves of 10 jounin plus my secondary red chakra, I explained. I will teach you the water clone jutsu and the lightning clone jutsu. Sasuke already taught us a jutsu, now I will. Hinata, your turn will be once you enter the chakra blades, that will come in handy. I turned to my friend, who nodded rapidly with a smile on her face. Then, let's start training. 1 week passed by quickly. First aid lessons didn't take me even an hour. It seemed like both of them already knew a lot. Sasuke had been living on his own for years and needed to be capable of taking care of himself. Hinata, on the other hand, had always admired medics. I still remembered her using ointment during our first Chunin test. She had a knack for these things. So, I taught them basic knowledge of venomous plants and medical herbs from the different elemental nations, as well as how to create ointments on the spot. They absorbed the information quickly, and anything else they didn't grasp was left as homework. Fortunately, we had someone at the hospital to teach them some medical ninjutsu. With Sasuke's Sharingan and Hinata's excellent chakra control, they learned the mystical palm technique in just a day. This technique allows the user to speed up the body's natural healing process by sending chakra from their hands into a wound or afflicted area. Hinata insisted on learning the Yin healing wound destruction, which helps reduce damage from injuries by anticipating attacks and preemptively healing the area. Although it wasn't necessary, she was so fascinated by medical ninjutsu that she wanted to learn it, especially since it countered the gentle fist technique. This way, her chakra points wouldn't be closed. Sasuke, not wanting to be left behind, also demanded to learn that jutsu. It took them a couple of days as it required a lot of concentration and incredible chakra control. Honestly, Hinata had an easier time with it, but I would never tell Sasuke that. Teaching them the clone jutsu was more challenging, as I could only show Hinata personally how to do it. My control of water was very good, but my lightning manipulation was lacking. Even then, Hinata struggled with it. She wasn't the best with ninjutsu. It took them the whole week to perfect it while they set their medical studies aside. But in the end, they succeeded. This made me realize I was pushing them too hard, too fast. In my memories, they were still the Sasuke Uchiha who fought by my side against Madara and the Hinata Hyuga, the fierce head of her clan. However, right now, they were barely kids, not even graduated from the academy. So, I decided to postpone teaching them the Shunshin no Jutsu for later. I didn't think they could handle it right now. What is the plan for today? Hinata asked excitedly. Shopping, I replied, earning a frown and a puzzled look from both of them. Guys, in the last week, you've learned 3 techniques, 3 B-level jutsu, and some academic knowledge. It's fine to train and want to improve, but we can't push our bodies until they give up. You need to rest and recover, I explained. I noticed they both wanted to protest, but they had no valid response to my reasoning. Think of this as a team bonding exercise. Also, Hinata, you are in dire need of new clothes. Sasuke grunted, which I took as agreement. Really? Hinata asked, frowning as she looked down at her outfit. What's wrong with my clothes? Other than they are so last season? I replied with a raised eyebrow and my hands on my hips. Well, they are baggy and don't complement your figure. You have to show off your assets. And those legs. Not to mention that pale color, which makes you look even paler than you already are. Like a ghost. Sasuke nodded along with my speech while Hinata looked a bit defeated. I didn't know when I became knowledgeable about clothes, I was the least qualified to comment on fashion. I used to wear orange. But it seemed that in years past she had been quite the fashionista. No wonder only a goddess could have made me stop wearing orange jumpsuits. Then we better get going. Hinata exclaimed, taking us by the arm and dragging us toward the shopping district, specifically the Ruby Boutique, the best shop for women's clothing in Konoha. What color do you think would look good on me? Purple or lilac, I answered without hesitation. Sasuke agreed. You know what? Let me pick the clothes, I said. You will only have to try them on and pay for them. I looked around a bit before finding the perfect outfit and handing it to her. Try this on. Sasuke grunted as Hinata disappeared into the changing room. Why are you here? Easy, we are a team. We do this kind of stuff together, I answered. His voice was softer this time. How can I understand you? You're quite easy to understand, one just has to pay enough attention, I replied. No one had ever done that before. I didn't need to know Sasuke's language to understand that. I know. And I am deeply sorry for that, I answered. Our conversation was cut short as Hinata emerged. She looked stunning, wearing a sleeveless black shirt that showcased her collarbone, black shorts, a long lilac vest, long purple socks, black boots, and fingerless gloves that covered her forearms. You look amazing, Hina-chan, I exclaimed with a beaming smile. You have to buy this. Sasuke grunted in agreement. I nudged him with my elbow. You look good, was all he said, but it was much better than just HN. Thank you guys. Hinata beamed before heading to the cashier to pay for the clothes. What do you say we go to Ichiraku? I want some ramen, I suggested as we left the Ruby Boutique. Before anyone could respond, a jounin appeared in front of us. We all tensed for a moment until we recognized him as a Konoha ninja. Kaguya Yue, the Hokage demands your presence at the IT department. Be there in 10 minutes, he said before flickering away. What does the Hokage need from you? Hinata asked, worry etched on her face. Surely it's about Orochimaru and my time in captivity. They may want more information about that, I replied, trying to calm them down. He finally made his move, Kurama grunted in my head. It's time for that, I replied. Then let's go together, Sasuke ordered. We are a team after all. He cut me off when I was about to protest. Using my words against me is cheating, I pouted, but internally, I was happy to have such good friends. You know that you won't be able to be present during the questioning. We do, but being there for support is better than doing nothing. I didn't have someone like that before, Sasuke explained. I was surprised by how open he was being and cursed Orochimaru, his cursed seal, and Tobi for ruining him. He could have been this closed-off but friendly boy if the world hadn't messed him up. Fine, I sighed, then got serious. But before we go, you guys need to know something. Let the show begin. I skipped from roof to roof until I reached the IT department. Unsurprisingly, the Hokage wasn't alone. Danzo, the elders, and the clan heads were present as well. Oh boy. When we turn this against Danzo, he will be so angry, I thought. Pay attention, child. This is a serious matter, Kurama growled. The sooner we get rid of that problem, the better for our plans. I know, Kurama, I sighed. Don't call me that, he barked, but I ignored him. You, darling, I'm so glad you could make it, the Hokage began, smiling warmly. My heart ached for the Hokage of my timeline who died so unjustly. Yamanaka-san over here would like to ask you some questions. Of course, Hokahama, I replied, smiling calmly. I turned my gaze toward Inoichi Yamanaka, and suddenly, memories began to surface. I never truly had a relationship with Ino in my life as you, but I did with her mother. I used to visit her flower shop weekly, asking about the meaning of each flower and learning to differentiate medical herbs from poisonous ones. My relationship with Inoichi-san also blossomed during those visits. He was like an uncle to me and a good friend of my parents. Please follow me, he said professionally, leading me to an interrogation room. I could sense the chakra of the welcoming committee from the other side of the glass. Kaguya-san. Inoichi-san, please, there's no need to be so formal. We are family after all, I replied sweetly. I understood why he was acting this way, but I had a naive cover to maintain. Though maybe I was wrong. After all, you didn't visit me or my parents' graves. I tilted my head in a confused manner. Inoichi sighed internally. He knew how much his friend appreciated the civil family, and finding out they had died had devastated him. Especially knowing that his niece, in everything but blood, was tortured and held captive for over a year. Of course, he considered that girl family. But he couldn't interfere, he was ordered not to. Kaguya-san, could you tell me what happened after you escaped Orochimaru's laboratory? My friend asked, and I flinched at both the use of my last name and the mention of Orochimaru. I clenched my fists under the table, using pain to push away bad memories. It was typical behavior for someone suffering from PTSD. Irika-san had told us I had been having recurring nightmares. As I told the Hokage, I was saved by a bounty hunter. He was planning to get rid of all Akatsuki and was holding me captive as bait for Orochimaru. I spat the name as if it were poisonous. Later, he was killed by a man who called himself the Amikage. Who was this man, the bounty hunter? And what did he look like? Inoichi questioned. I don't know if it was his real name, but he told me to call him Kurama, I answered. He had red hair, red eyes, and tan skin. He also wore a spiral tattoo on the palm of his right hand. A spiral tattoo? Inoichi interjected, suddenly anxious. Yes, just like that spiral that our ninja wear on the back of their vest, I replied, oblivious to the commotion I had just stirred. There was another Uzumaki survivor? The Inuzuka clan's head growled angrily. And he is gone too? We can't be sure he was a survivor or not. Maybe he was trying to pass as one of them, the Hokage reasoned calmly. Yu herself is unsure of who that man really was. Maybe he was wearing a genjutsu and a fake tattoo to make her feel safe with him. Of course, he doesn't know we practically erased the existence of the Uzumaki clan from our history. A gloomy silence reigned on the other side of the glass as the questioning continued in the interrogation room. There's something you are not telling us about this man, Inoichi pointed out. Even if you had taken that chance to free yourself, how did you get all the way to Konoha safe and sound? I might be a child, Inoichi-san, but I am far from stupid. As soon as I saw that man kill the one holding me captive, I took his bag and fled. You know what was in his bag? 6 S-class bounty rewards. People would do anything for money. So I paid people to take me all the way to Konoha and for their protection, she answered, surprising many of the adults. I also might have kept some of the money for personal use, she continued, a bashful blush creeping onto her cheeks. I am an orphan now. That money will keep me sustained until I can stand on my own 2 feet. That was a smart move, Shikaku commented. Less troublesome situations, he grunted. I like this girl. Some chuckled at his words. Of course, he would like her, a smart, pretty girl who avoids troublesome situations. The perfect Nara. About your time in that laboratory, you said you were tortured because of your clan's Kekii Genkai, but you are unaware of which clan you belong to, Inoichi observed as she shifted her stance. Was that a lie? He asked suspiciously. No, not exactly. I do not know which clan I am part of, but I do know which clan I am a relative of, she replied. What is the difference? Inoichi questioned, confused by her response. You see, the first Hokage had many children. Many boys but only 2 daughters. His firstborn son continued the Senju clan's legacy, leaving his heiress as Lady Tsunade. The 2 daughters married into other clans and took different last names. The oldest became a namesake, leaving her heir as the yondaime, Mianto namesake. The youngest daughter was sent to the Water Nation for a political marriage, becoming part of my ancestors' family. Thanks to her bloodline, my family gained the ability we now call a Kekii Genkai and became a clan. A clan that one day would be hunted until there's only one left, me, she explained, leaving everyone shocked by the revelation. Is that even possible? Hayashi demanded to know, shocked by what had just been revealed. There is another surviving relative of the first Hokage alive? It wouldn't be impossible, answered the Hokage. I do recall Mizuki being sent to the Water Nation for a political marriage. And her being related to the first would explain her Kekii Genkai, added Shikaku. The first had large reserves of chakra and a great affinity for nature manipulation. Maybe that's how her clan ended up with a second nature chakra that has almost a personal consciousness. Her healing abilities also would come from the first, who was known to have them, though not as developed as hers. The reason why it skipped some generations could also be explained, as it is only a branch from the main clan. Everyone considered what Shikaku had just said. All the pieces fit perfectly, the gaps left by her previous interrogation were now being filled. It wouldn't be the first time that Orochimaru experimented with the first genes. I will have to check that, Inoichi warned you before delving into her mind to search for that exact memory. It checks out, he gasped. From the other side of the mirror, they felt both happy and confused, not to mention a bit melancholic. Why didn't you tell us this before? Because I didn't want to be used. Her words made everyone present flinch in shame, everyone except Danzo and the elders. I had just lost my family, I don't want to form one right now. If I had told you I am from an unknown clan, people would demand that I repopulate it. Give me years before that. Being part of the Senju clan, one that has already had 2 Hokages, I would be married off as soon as I came of age. Wouldn't you have done the same if it had been Ino in my place? Her blunt words made all the clan heads thoughtful. Not to mention the power that the civil council holds. My father was part of it, and he always complained about how much say they had on ninja matters. They understood nothing of it, yet they were expected to be listened to and obeyed? How is that fair? We suffer because of their choices when they don't know better. Look at what happened to poor Naruto. Dad confided in Mom one day that it was the civilian council that spread word about him being. It was meant to be a secret, but they thought they knew better and that people needed to know. Now the guy is dead because civilians do not understand the life of ninjas. Everyone gaped at her breathless, angry rant, her words hitting home in the worst ways possible. Dad always looked up to the Hokage, but he never really liked how he always listens to his council. They are there for advice, not to dictate what he says. This is a dictatorship, isn't it? His say is final, the council cannot sway his decisions. If I cannot count on the Hokage, then who can I count on? What else was I supposed to do other than keep this to myself? Sarutobi looked at the girl's distraught expression and knew that things had to change. His own people saw him as nothing but a puppet. When did he become a puppet for the council? He used to be a feared and strong leader, but now he had civilians telling him how to run his ninja, his city? No more. Katyu, he called out to the Umbu present, who rapidly appeared kneeling in front of him. Tell every member of the civilian council that from now on, the civilian and ninja councils will no longer be a joint force. I am dividing them. The civilians council will handle civilian matters, while the ninja council will focus on ninja issues. The meetings will be held at different times. If anyone has a problem with that, they can submit their resignation to my secretary tomorrow morning. Also, the clan breeding program is now over. We will not allow children to suffer from this any longer, I declared firmly, not permitting any protests. When I noticed my 2 old friends glaring at me and preparing to complain, I interrupted. If you're upset that I took away your favorite tools to manipulate and give you more power and say in the council, you can express your feelings later, not in my presence. As I told Inu and Kat, if you have any issues with this, you can hand in your resignation to my secretary tomorrow morning. Elders can be easily replaced, Hokages are not. They blushed in shame and embarrassment, continuing to glare. When did my friends become so sour and resentful? Elders shouldn't even have a vote in the council. I gave you that privilege because I value your advice, but once you take advantage of it, those privileges are revoked. Not bothering to acknowledge Danzo or the approving looks from the other clan heads, I returned my attention to the interrogation happening on the other side of the glass. I did not expect to hear what I heard next. You tried her best not to smirk, her plan was unfolding perfectly. By the end of this interrogation, she would eliminate the bothersome civilian council, the elders and Danzo, while also freeing Root. On the other hand, Inoichi could not contain his smile. Danzo had brought her in because he wanted to find her guilty of something, hoping to turn her into a weapon or use her to breed perfect ninjas. He wanted her to be accused of working for a bounty hunter or being a spy for Orochimaru. He even gathered all the clan heads to prevent the Hokage from intervening and helping her. Unbeknownst to him, she was turning the tables on that old hawk. You, Inoichi said, unconsciously relaxing. Is there something else you left out during your time in Orochimaru's laboratory? He asked gently. I would rather not talk about it, she whispered, looking down at her lap. Internally, she congratulated herself on her performance. But you can see for yourself, she offered. Inoichi worriedly read her mind, expecting the worst, and he found it. He schooled his features to hide his reaction and called out an Umbu squad leader, mentally communicating his orders. Once the Umbu squad leader had left, he turned to the Hokage, relieved that the others seemed distracted by their own serious conversation. "What is it, Inoichi?" Sarutobi asked. "Hoka-sama, it's better if you see it for yourself," Inoichi replied grimly, as he submerged both of them into Yu's mind. In the fragment of memory, they saw a bruised and bloodied Yu being cornered by a boy in a lab coat. The boy threw her to the floor and tried to overpower her. "Get off me," she yelled, fighting desperately. Both Sarutobi and Inoichi felt her fear and desperation, paralyzing them. They could not tear their eyes away from the scene, feeling disgusted with themselves for being unable to help her, even though they knew it was in the past. Suddenly, a blinding red chakra surrounded Yu, heat emanating from her as her chakra changed colors, from red to orange, from orange to blue, from blue to green, and finally to black. With each color change, the heat intensified. Then her chakra erupted into black flames that engulfed the boy, reducing him to ashes. "Goodness," the Hokage gasped. This feeling is reminiscent of the first whenever he uses his would release. Could it be a genetic adaptation from his bloodline? "I don't think so," Yu's sudden voice startled the third. "I don't possess earth chakra, but I do have fire nature. Perhaps the bloodline adapts based on the individual's chakra nature," she suggested, almost as a question. "Interesting," Sarutobi commented, watching as the memory fragment showed Yu's chakra returning to her body, followed by her breaking down in tears, a normal reaction after such a traumatic event. "Why didn't you tell us this, my child?" "I was ashamed," Yu whispered, her bangs covering her eyes. "You have nothing to be ashamed of," the Hokage said sternly, lifting her chin to meet his gaze. "What that monster tried to do is unforgivable. In the end, you stopped him." "I am not afraid of that," Yu whispered, shedding some tears. "I am ashamed of losing control of my powers and killing someone." "You were protecting yourself, there's nothing to be ashamed of," Sarutobi replied firmly. "Inoichi, why are we watching this? You could have simply told me what happened." "We are here to see what happens next," the mind reader replied, his serious demeanor worrying the Hokage. Suddenly, noises could be heard, and Yu stopped crying, snapping her head toward the source of the sound. She quickly got up and hid behind a wall. Suddenly, Kabuto and a Konoha ninja with a blank white mask appeared on the scene. "You know the deal," the Konoha ninja began. "I know. Danzo gives us information, allows our spies to stay undiscovered in Konoha, and shows us a way in and out of Konoha in return for the discoveries on the Sharingan experiments and the ones done with the first genes. You roots need to stop being so suspicious," he laughed falsely. "Or did you forget how I was the one to place all those Sharingan eyes into your MSTR's left arm and right eye? We pay our due, never forget that." Kabuto glared for a second before putting on his fake smile again. "Though I'm still surprised about how Danzo was capable of cornering the Uchiha clan into a state of rage and paranoia, then ordering their heir to kill all of them under the Hokage's nose when he couldn't even take the Hokage's seat after his plots with Hanzo during the Second and Third Shinobi Wars. Then again, I can't complain. He did give us all those Sharingan eyes to experiment on," he mused aloud, sighing when he received no response from the root member. "You can't be provoked, can you? Perfect lifeless dolls. Then again, that's why I like this brainwashing program of Danzo's so much." Kabuto laughed, sending shivers down Yu's spine. "Shoo, get going, little root ninja." He dismissed the Konoha ninja. He then turned around and saw some strands of silver hair coming from behind the wall. An evil smirk appeared on his face as he said, Oh, you darling, it seems that we are going to play all night long." The fragment of memory suddenly froze. The real Yu stared at the scene in front of her, her younger self cowering and the malicious Kabuto reaching out for her. Sarutobi, on the other hand, felt his whole world turn upside down. Danzo had gone ahead with his root program, something the Hokage knew and could forgive to a certain degree. But his plot with Hanzo? That was treachery of the worst kind. The penalty was severe, not to mention a possible war against AIM if they ever found out about it. After all, Danzo must have helped that dictator maintain power and terrorize those lands. He also led the Uchiha massacre and formed an alliance with a traitor, giving him who knows how much information. And it all happened right under his nose. Sarutobi realized he could no longer lead this village. He had had a good run, but he lost his touch, which led to so many monstrosities and the death of someone he loved like a grandson, Naruto. However, he wouldn't leave the seat of power without one last stand. He then tortured me until he erased a whole day of my memories. Yue answered monotonously, not taking her eyes off the frozen scene in front of her. Or at least, that's what he thought. The good thing about my Kekii Genkai is that everything heals, even the brain. Or a bad thing if you really think about it. Why didn't you tell us about this before? The Hokage asked, brokenly, still in disbelief of such betrayal from his dear friend. With all due respect, Hokage, do you really not see why I hid this from you? Her tone was unforgiving, almost making the old man wince. Only decades of practice kept him from breaking down right there. Danzo had been betraying you for decades under your nose, having you play along with every plan of his. Me, someone who has been held captive by a missing nin from Konoha, appears out of the blue safe and sound, claiming that a war hero was betraying his village in the worst way possible. Who would you have believed? My memories could have been forged or something like that. I would have ended up in Danzo's jail and then back to Orochimaru's laboratory for experimentation. Sarutobi looked down in shame, knowing her words were true and could not be refuted. He had never felt so ashamed of himself as a Hokage in his entire life. I needed proof. So, I kept looking for his hiding spot, where the Roots Quarter was held. I found it. It isn't that hard if you know what you are looking for. I just had to follow the malice. Malice? The third cut her off, confused by her wording. I am a censor, Tokizama. Every Root member has a curse seal on their tongues. I didn't know what that malice was I felt from the man with the white mask until I met branch members from the Hyuga clan, Yue explained, gaining an approving look from Sarutobi. Inoichi had already given his before. I sent an Umbu squad there for intel. We need confirmation after all, Inoichi added. Good call, Sarutobi sighed. We better return, they must be back already. Yue's perspective, I watched patiently as the Hokage looked through folder after folder, his face darkening with every piece of information he read. How Danzo was the one who allowed the masked man to enter Konoha both times, during the massacre and the Kyuubi incident. How his ex-team members, the elders, were aware of his root program and helped during the Uchiha massacre. How Danzo planned out Tsunade-chan's little brother's death because he did not want such a strong bloodline, like the wood release, to be outside his control. The verification of everything said in my false memory. And some fake paperwork about him stalking my family and then setting up the ambush we suffered. I was so glad that the Hokage was so angry at his ex-friend that he did not notice how easy it was to find all this information. As if it had been placed right there to be found. I made my best effort not to smile when he commanded the clan heads to take action against Danzo for his treachery. Not even all those Sharingan could have saved him from the best Jounin of Konoha. The root members were already neutralized by the Hokage's bodyguards. The elders tried to protest but were held back by the Umbu squad Inoichi-san had sent to infiltrate Root. The elders were stripped of their titles and positions in the ninja community and branded as outcasts. With nowhere to run or seek help, they would live a life similar to what I experienced when I was Naruto. Perhaps even worse. A dark part of me felt satisfaction at the turn of events. Checkmate, I thought. That's what happens when you anger a fox. Kurama agreed. The village was quiet. Too quiet if I'm being honest. The Hokage had just announced that Danzo, once considered a war hero, was the principal cause of the Kyuubi attack, had been kidnapping children to brainwash them for decades, was allied with a missing nin, tried to overthrow him, and almost caused a war against AIM. Not to mention, he had just discarded his two closest allies, the elders. Even inside the council room, the atmosphere was gloomy and tense. I couldn't believe all of this had happened in just a few hours. Just an hour ago, we were at the interrogation room, with Inoichi-san questioning me while those elders acted like they owned the place. Now one of them was gone, and the others were left in disgrace. I finally allowed myself to relax and think of my friends, Sasuke and Hinata. I had to buy as much time as possible. I had already managed to have the Hokage discreetly deal with the spy Mizuki, though I felt a bit sorry for Irika-sensei, as they were good friends. Now, he was waiting for my blood test results to see if I could access my inheritance from both the Namikaze and Senju clans. Their mission was of great importance, and they couldn't have Hayashi interfering. Flashback. What is it, Yue-chan? Hinata asked, her brow furrowed with concern. Follow me, I said, guiding them to a secluded area and checking our surroundings to ensure no one was watching. Listen, I didn't mention this before because I wasn't sure if it was real or not, I began. During my time with Orochimaru, I discovered that Danzo is working with him and is operating an illegal ninja force right under the Hokage's nose. They're called Root. My words shocked both of them. You need to pay attention to this. This is no longer child's play at the academy. This is a real situation that could get you into serious trouble. Possibly even worse. Are you up for this? Who do you think you're talking to? Sasuke grunted, glaring at me, offended that I would even ask. You know I have your back, Hinata replied without hesitation. Good. Then you both need to know the truth behind the Uchiha massacre. It wasn't Uchiha Itachi who was responsible, it was Danzo. Sasuke's Sharingan activated instinctively. My words must have hit him hard. He feared the Sharingan too much and wanted to eliminate all of them. He failed to kill you, Sasuke, because Itachi was there. Itachi took the blame to keep you safe. Since then, he's been a spy for Konoha within a criminal organization called Akatsuki. What is the meaning of this? Sasuke growled, pinning me against the wall. Why didn't you tell me this before? I told you, I gasped, struggling for breath. I didn't know how much of what I learned was true. What if this was a plan by Orochimaru or Itachi to turn you against Konoha? I couldn't risk it or give you false hope. I was trying to find proof, which I did only recently, and I wanted to inform you safely. Jeopardy why? Sasuke asked, his tone calmer but still intense. Danzo has been operating Root for years, right under the Hokage's nose. If he even suspected we were onto him, he would have us both killed and no one would know it was him. It wouldn't be the first Uchiha he killed and got away with it, I snapped, feeling guilty when he flinched but relieved he had released me. But why tell us now? Hinata asked, confused. Unless he's going to be at the meeting. She gasped. He knows you know something. Yes, he does. And he likely wants to find something to use against me and have me executed as a traitor, I admitted. That bastard. Sasuke growled, punching the wall and leaving a dent. We can't let him get away with this. We won't. I know how to turn the tables against him, and I promise you, Sasuke, he will pay for what he did to you and your clan. But for this to work, you need to leave this to me. That bastard had my whole clan killed. How do you expect me to sit down and do nothing? Sasuke yelled, his glare returning. I expect you to help another clan not to perish. I shot back, my frustration boiling over. That silenced him, and both of them looked at me in surprise. Many of the branch family members of the Hyuga clan gave Danzo their children, not wanting them to be cursed by the birdcage seal. But if Danzo is found out and all his deeds, then those branch members that gave their babies away will. Hinata realized where I was getting, shaking at the thought of what would happen. Your father will be pressured by the Hyuga elders to activate the seal on all of them until they die. So many deaths will cause an internal revolution, resulting in the deaths of all the branch members as their seals will be activated. I finished for her. How do we stop that? Surprisingly, it was Sasuke who asked, taking Hinata into his arms as she cried on his chest. Orochimaru seems to have made himself immortal or as close as he could become. He created a jutsu to jump from one body to another. He was grooming Itachi to become his next vessel, wanting the Sharingan to copy all the ninjutsus out there. He is too powerful now, so... Sasuke cut me off. So he wants me now. But what does that have to do with saving the Hyugas? You see, he also wants a new body for his right hand. He is a medic and saw the great potential of the Byakugan in that area, but the Hyugas are very careful in guarding their eyes, especially those of the main branch, I continued, glaring at Sasuke for interrupting. So, the most logical choice is a branch member, but he didn't like having his right hand under the control of that cursed seal. He found a way to break it, and I have it right here. I touched my arm, activating a container seal and taking out a purple scroll. Hinata, Sasuke, you must start the internal revolution early by giving the branch members a chance of survival. Take that seal off their foreheads. Why, Yue, I don't know how I can ever repay you for this, Hinata told me in tears, her eyes shining with gratitude. We can discuss this later, now go. I ordered. Make sure he pays or I will never forgive you, Sasuke growled at me. Don't you dare die on me, got it, girl? Got it. I answered with a challenging smirk, creating a clone to leave with them so I could know when they were done with their part before rushing away. I had to get to the IT soon. End of the flashback. You, the Hokage's voice snapped me out of my memories. Your blood test results are positive. Here, he handed me some paperwork and many keys. Every property of the Namaze clan and all their riches belong to you, as well as half of the properties and riches from the Senju clan. Thank you, Kisama, I replied. I don't want to be ungrateful, but how much of the Senju riches are still untouched? I've heard many things about Tsunade-sama, and it is well known that she likes to gamble, I asked, giving him a wry smile. Don't worry, child. When Tsunade left the village, she only took her own money. She didn't feel right using the money her clan had left for her. He chuckled, a bit amused by my question. I counted that as a win. It was the first time that Hokage had laughed in hours, though it felt like a lifetime. Going back to business, Shikaku interrupted. What will be done with the root members found? And the children found at the cottages? I smiled internally at the mention of the unmarked boys and girls. I succeeded in saving Sai's brother this time around. It seems that every root member's cursed seal disappeared with the death of Danzo, Inoichi-sen added. They will be sent to the IT, not to be tortured but to be unbrainwashed. They are the victims here. If they can inform us about any other unauthorized missions Danzo sent, that would be even better. I want Umbu to search and research every inch of Root's quarters and Danzo's house. There's still too much unknown about Root. As for the kids, there are too many of them for the orphanage to maintain or house. That will be a problem, and we can't let them stay at those cottages, the Hokage said thoughtfully. If I may, Hokasama, I began slowly, waiting for the Hokage's nod to continue. I have just received too many properties. Why not let the orphans stay at the Senju compound? There are too many houses for my own, and I was already planning on living at the Namazake mansion anyway. As for maintaining them, why not use Danzo's money? He made them suffer, now he pays for them at least until they can stand on their own 2 feet. That is a very generous offer, you, the Hokage smiled warmly at me, his eyes shining with pride. It had been a while since he gazed at me like that, and it almost made me cry. You heard you, they will be staying at the Senju compound and will be given Danzo's money in a measured allowance every month. If this is all, then everyone can go now. Wait! I suddenly yelled, startling everyone. My clone hadn't popped up yet, which meant that not every branch member had been unsealed. I ignored Hayashi's glare. I knew he was restless because he wanted to rush to the Hyuga compound and punish those branch members. What is it, child? The Hokage asked calmly, surely worried that all the events of today had gotten the best of me. I swear I was going to tell this to all of you. I began desperately. But suddenly Danzo was dead, and the elders were stripped of their positions. We came here and there was a mass announcement, then I was being given lands and riches. It all happened so suddenly that I did not have time to mention it, I said in one breath, feeling breathless by the end of it. Mention what? Gigi asked, gently but sternly at the same time. When I escaped from the Amicage and the bounty hunter, I didn't take only the money but the Samahata, one of the 7 treasure swords of Kiri. Kurama had taken it from Kisame after defeating him. While traveling back to Konoha, I rested in Kiri for a few days. Not wanting to be caught with the Samahata, I made contact with the Mizukage, Yagura, and returned the sword. He was so grateful and offered me a place as a shinobi in his ranks, especially after learning my clan originated from his lands. However, I refused, wishing to return to my village and home. I confessed, shocking more than one. something I've been doing a lot lately. I didn't want to say it before for fear of being marked as a traitor by Danzo. Do not worry, child, that will not happen. If anything, it will smooth things over with Kiri, he said, though the last part was mostly for the adults. However, I knew why he said it. Yagura had told me he came to Konoha with the longing to form an alliance. Not only had a future Konoha ninja returned one of their greatest treasures, but Konoha had also been guarded by a clan from Kiri all this time. That would set this meeting in their favor. Kagura-san, what are you hiding? Shikaku asked suspiciously. I knew he would notice my desperation easily, but I had to buy them more time. What you said was true, but why you said it is a whole other story. You are trying to deceive us. Why? Suddenly, my clone popped, and I could finally relax. I didn't mean to deceive all of you, but only Hyuga-dano, I answered confidently, looking into those pale white eyes and seeing his confusion. After all, Hinata could not allow half of her clan to be harmed. Hayashi's eyebrows raised in surprise, surely not expecting his daughter to plot against him. She needed time, I simply bought it for her. That's what friends do. Time for what? Hayashi growled, his cool demeanor hiding a rising panic. I think you already know, I replied calmly. Time to unseal every single branch member. My words silenced the council room until they all began to react in shock at my exclamation. I expected Hayashi to harm me or at least strike me, but all he did was shun away, leaving me alone to pick up the pieces. Niji's POV. When I returned to the compound from a mission with my team, I did not expect to be dragged by another branch member to the deepest parts of our quarters. I also did not expect most of the branch members to be there, forming queues. What is going on? I asked Misaki, the older shinobi who had brought me here. Lady Hinata has found a way to break the birdcage seal, he informed me excitedly. She did. He nodded with a happy smile, before taking off his headband and showing me an unmarked forehead. My eyes widened. I reached to touch it gently, not believing my eyes. She kept her promise, I whispered, mostly to myself. Where is Hinata-sama? I asked restlessly. I needed to see her now. Right behind all these queues, he answered. She and some of the oldest ninjas are taking care of unsealing all of us. She asked for you as soon as you got back. Go ahead, she is waiting for you. I didn't need to be told twice. I quickly advanced to the other side of the room and found her there. As appealing as ever, her eyes were focused in deep concentration. Her hair was a bit longer now, and she looked even better. What caught my attention was her new outfit. It suited her newfound confidence and determination, but it also worried me that she was changing too much and that the real Hinata was being lost. The child she was unsealing suddenly cried out in pain, which seemed to be a common reaction when the seal was removed. As soon as the seal left her forehead, Hinata had the girl in her arms, trying to calm her down. Hinata's hand started glowing green as she placed it on the girl's forehead to ease the pain. At first, I was surprised since I didn't know she had healing techniques, but then I smiled. Hinata-sama was still the kind and gentle girl I had always known. My smile faded when I noticed the Uchiha behind her, who seemed to be around her all the time these days. He had always been a loner, and now he was following Hinata-sama like a puppy. Before I could snap at him for being so close to her, a silver-haired girl appeared next to them and hugged the Uchiha. He growled in protest, but his body language showed he didn't mind it. He actually liked it. I calmed down, realizing that the Uchiha was following not Hinata-sama but her friend. He is not good enough for my lady. My lady? Since when do I see her as my lady? More importantly, as mine? Before I could think more about it, Hinata-sama called out to me, Niji Nizan. You're already here. Come, let's get that seal off of you. I could only complain and kneel before her. Be aware that this might hurt. I can handle it, Lady Hinata, I assured her before taking off my headband. I tried my best not to wince as the seal left my forehead, but it really did hurt. A free future was everything that kept me from breaking. Hinata smiled at me once the pain stopped and held up a mirror. I gasped at my reflection. Freedom. I am finally free, I whispered. A white owl like you deserves to soar the night skies, not be chained to the ground. the silver-haired girl commented with a kind smile. Yue-chan is right, Hinata exclaimed, suddenly shy. Niji-Nizan, would you mind staying with me as I continue unsealing the other branch members? It would be my honor, I replied honestly, her beaming expression worth everything. Niji Hyuga, I introduced myself, taking my place behind Hinata and next to the silver-haired girl. You Kagura, she said with a smile. The Uchiha boy grunted, groaning in pain from the elbow shove he received from you. Sasuke Achi, a happy woman? He glared at her, but even I could see there was no real anger behind it. Very, she replied with a giggle. I couldn't help but snicker to myself before focusing back on Hinata. I knew this wouldn't end with just her freeing us. This was a revolution. We were claiming our rightful place in our clan, led by our princess. It didn't mean we would enslave the main branch. We understood what suffering truly meant. We would fight for equality, for the balance that should have existed from the beginning. I couldn't be prouder to stand by Hinata's side. Hayashi's POV, I rushed back to my compound, wishing with all my might that nothing drastic had happened. How wrong I was. As soon as I entered, I knew an internal war had occurred. The place was a wreck, and there were over 20 men punished in the gardens for daring to hurt another clansmate. Suddenly, 2 branch jounins appeared in front of me, their foreheads free of any seal. I grimaced. Hayashidano, the clan head is requesting your presence, Misaki spoke. Please leave your weapons here. So, she had discovered the loophole in my power. My say was final, except if the majority of clan members voted against me in favor of another main branch member for the clan head position. The majority of our clan was formed by branch members. I silently followed them, leaving my weapons in the garden, toward the council room. Once I arrived, I was shocked by the scene. Half of my council was gone. The remaining members sat to the left, while the new branch members of the council sat to the right. At the top sat Hinata, with Hanabi on her left and Niji on her right, both unmarked. The last Uchiha leaned against the wall behind Hinata. In the middle, papers burned in a controlled fire. Hinata had managed to unseal every branch member, take control of the compound, punish those she deemed guilty, and form her own council in just 4 hours. How long had she been planning this? Father, it's good of you to join us, she spoke sweetly, though I couldn't decipher her honesty. Please sit, we have a lot to discuss. I sat down across from her, close to the door. I noticed the Jounins hadn't left either, acting as guards to keep an eye on me. As much as I hated the situation, I couldn't help but feel impressed by my daughter. How long have you known about Danzo's betrayal? I questioned. No one seemed surprised, so she must have brought them all up to speed. A pretty good move to use that as a distraction, I must admit. Thank you, father. For a while now, she replied calmly. Yue-chan is my friend after all, we have each other's backs. Speaking of you, how is she? I noticed the shift in her body language and the Uchihas. They were worried. She is good. She ended up being the last Namazake heiress and another Senju princess. This surprised them all. Danzo is dead. The elders have been stripped of everything, and the root members are already getting help. That's good to know, Hinata sighed, relieved. The Uchiha relaxed a little as well. Sorry about all of this, but I can't have you kill 60% of our clan simply because they thought the kids would have a better life with Danzo. They didn't know about Root, they thought he was really their ally. So killing over 20 men was necessary? I asked sharply. Instead of cowering, she glared at me. Those men deserved it, she snapped. Even their wives and your council accepted my decision. Many in the room nodded, even from the main branch. They abused their power over branch members. One even used the seal to cause a woman to have a MC because he thought the baby was his. It wasn't. I paled at the information. Why didn't anyone? Hinata cut me off. Why didn't anyone come to you? She asked incredulously. You sent your own twin brother to die for you because he was lesser than you for being a branch member. Those men were respectable main branch members of our community. Who would you have believed? And how did you expect them to talk with that seal on their foreheads? If those monsters ever thought their victims would rat them out, they would have used the seals until they died. They hurt a clansmate, They got their punishment, she stated firmly, leaving no room for discussion. The main branch may be full of snobbish members who think branch members are not as good as them, born to serve them. But they still see people, not toys to play with. As soon as this came to light, everyone voted for them to be punished. My first command as the clan head was to ban the birdcage seals forever and to finally stop this division between main and branch members, she informed me matter-of-factly. Clan head? You are all but a child, you can't lead this clan. You haven't even finished the academy. I exclaimed in disbelief. I was about to stand when my guards suddenly stopped me and held me down. By law I am. But you are right, I am too young and unprepared for the role. So you will continue making the decisions and being the face of our clan in external matters. But I will have the final say in internal matters and will attend every council meeting, where no decision will be accepted until I say so, she commanded. This is all for today, you are all dismissed. They left, leaving me alone with my daughters, nephew, the Uchiha boy, and my guards. You wanted me to be strong. Are you happy now? She asked softly, and I knew she was not mocking me. Honestly, I was not. I thought as I watched them all leave me alone in the room. Where did my sweet daughter go? Was it all my fault? 1 week has passed since that eventful day. Luckily, I was not held accountable for my aid to the Hyuga revolution. Clan matters are internal, and the council can only get involved if the head clan allows it. Hinata did not. Kami blessed that girl. Word spread quickly, not only about the Hyuga matter but also about my new status in the village. Wherever I went, I was called Princess, as Senju Princess. The council even insisted I take on that last name, even though I did not want to. The village needed it to strengthen its image toward the other villages. Fortunately, they allowed me to keep Kaguya too. Konoha was a mess this whole week. The civilian council was furious about all the decisions taken without their input. They even dared to barge into a ninja council meeting once and act as if they were part of it. It would be an understatement to say that Gigi was mad. He fired every single one of them and spent the rest of the meeting deciding who would form the new civilian council. Normally, Gigi wouldn't take such drastic measures so suddenly. He was all for second chances, but he already had enough on his plate to deal with difficult individuals like them. Not to mention he had been informed that same morning that Itachi had dealt with Orochimaru and his assistant. The rest of the civilians simply needed someone to blame for all of the mess, as always. I hated that coping mechanism of theirs, but for once I was happy it was directed at the right people. The elders. They felt tremendous guilt for mistreating Naruto all those years and for the tragic outcome of his life, being yet another victim of Danzo's schemes. Naruto's tomb has never looked better, clean, filled with flowers, and even some ramen. It brought tears to my eyes. I even heard that they were planning to create a statue in his honor, the Kyuubi being mounted by a little boy with whiskers. Naruto was finally being viewed as a hero for being the jailer of the Bijou, just as my father had wanted from the start. As for the rescued root members, they all went through the unbrainwashing procedure and returned to their families. Luckily, all adults still had living relatives. Unfortunately, all the children were orphans with no one to turn to. They loved the Senju compound and seemed to adapt quickly, but I could see how much struggle this was really taking from them. The good thing was that they had mandatory sessions with a psychologist twice a week for half a year, then only once a week for a year. Also, the civilians finally learned from their mistakes and started treating the victims with compassion. They flooded the Senju compound with presents for the orphans: food, clothes, flowers, even toys. I even got Sai's brother to see a good doctor. They found out he is very sick, but with the right treatment, he will be as good as new and might even start the academy next year. The bad news is that Danzo's funds did not cover it, not with so many other orphans needing assistance. So I contributed enough money from my S-class bounties to cover the treatment and medications. They were so grateful, especially since I had also named Sai. They promised that as soon as Shin got better, they would join the academy together. It still brought a smile to my face every time I recalled their genuine smiles. I made a mental note to introduce them to Yamato Taishu. Maybe then they could become a real family and help each other heal. I was surprised to hear about Kakashi-sensei taking over Danzo's position as head of the Umbu. Then again, Kakashi-sensei is one of the best shinobi in Konoha. No one was better suited for that role. However, I wondered who would now be our sensei. I also could not decide if it was a good change or a bad one. I love Kakashi-sensei, and he will always be my sensei, but he was not the best teacher. Sasuke and Hinata would likely thrive under someone else's guidance. With all the chaos around, I slipped into the morgue to retrieve Shirsue's eye and the eyes of Sasuke's father. I had Kurama help me identify them. I needed to keep them just in case Sasuke ever awakened his Mangekyo. I couldn't have him going blind on me. It was so easy that I wondered how Konoha was still standing after so much betrayal. I laughed to myself, not believing that I had ever doubted the will of fire. Sending the eye and a note to aim was much harder. Umbu were constantly on patrol. Konoha could not be left unguarded in such a delicate situation. But no one thought to stop a fox running wildly in the forest. After all, who in Konoha would ever have fox summons? I sighed tiredly as I entered the Namazake mansion. This had been such a long week. All I wanted was to head to the mansion's library, rest, and read some Uzumaki seal theory. I thanked my father for the brilliant idea of copying every single sealing material, scroll, theory, and book left from the Uzumaki after the fall of the Whirlpool Village. The advantages of being married to the Uzumaki princess. Though that title now belonged to Karen, and the title of Whirlpool Prince to Nagato. I was so deep in thought that I did not notice Sasuke waiting for me in the living room. The three of us hadn't seen much of each other since the Hyuga Revolution. Hinata had enough on her plate after the takeover, Sasuke was dealing with the truth of the massacre, and I was busy with the Sharingan eyes and treating the root orphans. Sasuke, I exclaimed in surprise. What are you doing here? Oh, so I finally managed to surprise Miss Censor? He teased, chuckling slightly, though I felt no meanness in his tone. As if. I snapped back, slightly offended. I simply wasn't paying attention. You should be. Especially in times like this, he scolded, his expression serious. The village is hanging by a thread, and anyone could try to attack Konoha's new princess. Watch it, Uchiha. You almost sound worried, I joked, gazing away. I couldn't look at him directly, not when he acted like the Sasuke who used to kiss all my worries away and make everything better. Well, I am, he replied. I turned my head toward him, surprised by his honest answer. You know, all the time I was at the Hyuga compound, I couldn't stop hating you. I flinched at his words. How could you send me off when you could be facing death or worse? Worry and impotence ate me alive. I never wanted to feel like that. But then I realized that once we become real ninjas, this will keep happening. For the sake of the mission, we would have to split up and trust each other to come out of difficult situations on our own. As you said, this is no longer child's play at the academy but real life. And all I could think about was how you could have died and I would have lost another person dear to me without them knowing what I really think. I took a deep breath, trying desperately not to hope too much and then be disillusioned. He might just be talking about seeing me as a best friend. I thought that love was a distraction, something that would stray me from my path of vengeance. But revenge was taken away from me. No, I walked away from it. I do not regret that. The debt to my family has been paid, and now my brother can return to the village like the hero he is. But what did I have left in life when my dreams were stripped away? If I had been asked that a couple of months back, I would have answered nothing. But today I can calmly answer, a team, and the plans of a future family. My heart began to race at his earnest expression. And I can't imagine that future without you by my side. Silent tears began to roll down my cheeks. He smiled gently at me as he wiped them away with his thumbs. Don't ever expect me to be this corny in the future. This will be a one-time thing. But there is no one out there who can stand next to me as an equal and keep me on my toes. What I am trying to ask. Yes, you corny team. The answer is yes. I cut him off with a beaming smile. I will be your girlfriend. I will be the mother of your children if you ask me nicely, I said teasingly. This is the most I've ever heard you talk, you know? Shut up, Dobe, he growled, but the smile on his face and the arms around my waist were a dead giveaway. Make me, I dared, breathlessly, as I waited for what I had desired for a year now. "Oh, I will," he replied before kissing me. And oh, he did. These past few months have been, for lack of a better word, crazy. Not only was almost every member of Akatsuki killed, but the leader, instead of looking for new recruits, had me hunting Orochimaru and his assistant down. He even demanded I save 4 of his lab rats, giving me their names: Karen Uzumaki, Yugo, Sujetsu Hozuki, and Kimimaro Atsutsuki. He even gave me a reward, Shirsue's remaining eye, for me to have surgery. When does he know about my impending blindness? Or that I already had the other eye? More importantly, how did he get into Konoha? Or does he have a spy there? Those alarming thoughts had to wait, as I could not do much for a week after the surgery. I had to have it to keep up my act. I can't allow myself to slip and let him find out about Konoha spying on AIM. Though, it didn't seem to have worked. We will be meeting the Hokage and his guard in a week, at the borders between our lands. Maybe then we can make the exchange and sign the treaty between our villages, Leader Sama said in his office at AIM. After years of espionage, he had finally revealed his true face to me. Who would have thought that Pain was an Uzumaki? What do you mean, Leader Sama? I asked, confused. What exchange? And I don't believe that bringing me there will be the best choice. Well, of course, the exchange between you and all the legacy my clan left behind in Konoha, he answered. Did you really think I wouldn't figure out you are a spy? Don't even think about escaping or harming us. While the surgery happened, I placed a cursed seal on you. I can end your life whenever I want. I will only remove it when the peace treaty is signed, he warned me. Of course, he wouldn't have done something out of kindness. I scolded myself. I fell for his trap. Why now? Weren't you planning Konoha's demise from the start? I questioned him. The act was broken anyway. I did, but that's only because you were blind to what a poison Danzo was, he informed me. That man has been plotting to overtake the Hokage for decades. He even helped Hanzo torment my people for that aim. Now that the Hokage's BLNDFLD is finally off and he has dealt with that monster, there is no need for us to continue fighting. I was shocked at the revelation but also relieved. Danzo was dead. My brother was finally safe. All I need to do now is inform them that your cover is blown. In the meantime, try to act civilized, won't you? All we want is the same, peace. With that, he dismissed me. I wanted to fight back, to get away. But he had placed that seal on me. Not to mention that his objective this time was not a bad one. I sensed no lie in him. I was also tired. I had been away from home for so long, and all I wanted was to see my brother again. Now that Danzo was dead and my cover was discovered, there was no need to keep lying to Konoha. To my brother. Use POV. I smiled to myself at the news Yugura had just shared with me. He had signed a peace treaty with AIM and received notice from Konoha that they would be coming by in a couple of weeks to discuss a treaty with them too. I was so glad for them. Things were going great lately. For all of us, really. Though, we still hadn't heard much from B. He had been quiet since we came back in time. You ready? Sasuke's voice made me forget all about my worries for B. It had been a couple of days since we started dating, and today was our first date. I was so excited. I even dressed up for it. Looking Sasuke up and down, I could see he had also made an effort. Shyly, I grabbed his hand and walked closely to him. From the corner of my eye, I could see his ears turning red at my action, which made me giggle a little bit. But of course, we couldn't have a simple day in our lives. Our date got interrupted by an umbu telling us the Hokage was expecting us. We both sighed but obeyed. It wasn't as if we could do anything else. You called for us, Hokage-sama? We both said as soon as we entered the council room, where the entire ninja council was present. We both ignored Hayashi's glare. Yes, I apologize for interrupting your date, he replied, his eyes shining with amusement, especially when we both blushed a bit at his words. As you both know, Itachi is in AIM undercover. It seems that his cover has been discovered, he told us with regret in his eyes. I quickly held onto Sasuke's hand. He was shaking. Is he? Please tell me he is okay, my boyfriend demanded angrily, but we all knew that was a cover for his fear and pain. He is, for the moment, Gigi assured Sasuke, who sagged in relief against me. The Amicage wants to meet us in 5 days to sign a peace treaty and for an exchange. They want something for the safe return of Itachi, I thought out loud, receiving a nod from Gigi. And that's why you are here, Yu, he continued. AIM seems to have 2 Uzumaki survivors. They sent us proof and everything. They want all the lands, riches, and sealing materials left from the Uzumaki clan. They want their legacy, I can understand that. Uzushigakure was our sister village, but that doesn't mean the Uzumaki clan belongs to Konoha. Those riches and lands and sealing materials were in possession of Konoha because we had the last survivor. But since Naruto is gone, they now belong to AIM, I commented. But what do you mean that you need me for that? You're right, my child. No better words could have been chosen, Gigi said with a proud smile. But the Senju clan, your bloodline, is also a descendant from that clan. The first married a whirlpool princess. You need me to sign off any right to the Uzumaki legacy, I realized. That is a clan decision, I cannot force you to do it. But you can save Itachi by making the right choice, Gigi said, looking at Sasuke. Cheat move, Gigi, I thought unamused. I looked at Sasuke, who was gazing at me intensely. I smiled gently at him and said, Come on, team. Do you really think I wouldn't do this for you? I asked. I know you would, he replied with a grateful smile, holding my hand tighter. Where do I sign? Wait, Shikaku interjected. The lands and riches we don't need. Konoha and our clans already have more than enough. But the sealing materials are of great importance. There aren't many seal emesters out there, and the Uzumaki clan was the best in sealing. We need those secrets. Don't worry about that. The Yondaime was also married to a whirlpool princess. He had every single sealing material, book, theory, and scroll copied in his mansion's private library, I reassured the Nara clan head, who seemed pleased by it. Wait a minute. If the only supposed survivor of the Uzumaki clan was married to the Yondaime, does that mean that Naruto was the Yondaime's son? Silence filled the council room at my words, shifting into a somber atmosphere. They didn't need the Hokage's confirmation, they already knew the truth. The guilt of how much they had failed their dear Yondaime was eating them alive. I felt a strange satisfaction from it. I had been spending too much time with Kurama. What about Itachi? Inoichi-san finally broke the silence. Even if we tell everyone the truth behind the whole act, they still might be suspicious. I already thought about it, Gigi responded. I will tell everyone in a mass speech the truth of the Uchiha massacre and announce Itachi's return to the village. As the next Hokage. Silence reigned until we all shouted, What? I am already too old, and no matter how much we lie to ourselves, I allowed all of this to happen under my nose. I am not the same professor I used to be, I need a younger heir, Gigi explained. Itachi isn't only a genius, he has sacrificed too much for our village that he deserves a reward. The first Uchiha Hokage. Kami, I murmured, shocked. I was not expecting that. Bachan was an incredible Hokage, but I knew she was kind of forced into it and didn't like it too much. She loved the village and its people and would have done anything to protect them. But the Hokage job weighed heavily on her. Itachi had done the most for Konoha, he deserved that title. But I couldn't stop myself from thinking about how much I had changed the future. Can I be sure of what will happen next? What have I done? Hinata's POV. Lady Hinata. Nijinai-sama called out to me. Where are you going without a guard? Hinata-sama, things are no longer as they used to be. You are now our precious clan head. You have to be more careful. Instead of hating it, I loved it. I felt warmed by his concern. It showed how much he cared about me. Sorry, Nijinai-sama. I am simply meeting up with my team, I apologized, my cheeks surely crimson red. Your team? You mean the Senju princess and that Uchiha brat? He inquired, his mouth twisting into a sneer. Don't be mean, Nijinai-sama, I scolded lightly. Both Yue-chan and Sasuke-chan have been good to me and helped me immensely. They are my precious best friends. And right now, Sasuke-chan needs me. Right? He sighed, his expression softening slightly. It is not every day that you find out your family massacre wasn't done by your brother, but was all a setup. And that the brother you thought was a traitor was actually a hero risking his life in enemy territories. Though you didn't seem that surprised, he accused me. Yu is very good at recollecting information. Did you really think she would leave her teammates and best friends in the dark? I replied, raising an eyebrow. Point taken, he said. I still can't believe we will be having an Uchiha Hokage. Tobirama-sama must be rolling in his tomb. But Hashirama-sama must be celebrating in the afterlife. After all, his dream of reconciliation between the Senju and Uchiha clans is happening. I fired back as we made our way to the Uchiha compound. It is a new era, Nijinai-sama. It's time we change with it. Just look at all that's happening. There are no longer branches in the Hyuga clan, there's going to be an Uchiha Hokage, and the Senju and Uchiha clans will be united in the future by marriage. Aren't you getting ahead of yourself? Senju-san and Uchiha-san are both only 11, and their relationship has only just started, Nijinai-sama commented. Have you seen them together yet? I replied. They act like a married couple already, there's no way they will ever break up. But you are right, I'm getting ahead of myself. We can leave the talk of marriage and kids for far into the future, there's still time. But we all know that it will happen. Uchihas only fall in love once, and when they do, they hold on to that with all their might. Why do you think they go insane when they lose their loved ones? Good point. But still, I do not want you talking about marriage and kids anytime soon. Otherwise, we will have a lot of trouble keeping those old men in the council in check. I can already see it, them parading their sons in front of you for you to choose a fiancé. I shuddered at the picture Nijinai-sama painted. I am more worried about what they will do to my children. There were 2 Senju Hokages, 1 Sarutobi, and 1 Namikaze. And now there will be an Uchiha Hokage. They will want the next one to be a Hyuga. You are completely right. I've never thought about that, he exclaimed, shocked. 2 of the founding clans have a Hokage in their ranks, and the other 2 are from new clans that were formed with Konoha. If the next one isn't a Hyuga, our clan will receive a big blow to our pride, I said. They will. Right now, they will let their hate for the Uchihas slide as we are going through enough changes, but in a decade or so, they will push hard to train the next Hokage. I sighed tiredly at the thought of what was to come. Next to me, Nijin-sama sighed, feeling as troubled as I was. But nothing else was said as we reached the Uchiha compound. What I expected to see were many abandoned houses with warning tapes surrounding them, a ghost compound that had all the kids running back to their mothers. However, I found many shadow clones running from side to side, cleaning the place up. What the? Nijinai-sama mumbled, just as stunned as I was. Hina-chan, you came. Good. We need as much help as we can, a clone exclaimed happily. Boss will be waiting for you at the main house, at the end of the road, was the last thing she said before disappearing. Lady Hinata? Nijinai-sama referred to me in this strange situation. Well, you heard her, was all I said before starting to walk towards the main house, where Yue-chan and Sasuke-chan were waiting for us on the porch. What's going on? I asked. Hello to you too, Hina-chan, Yue-chan said, amused. Well, we thought that since Itachi has been away from home for so long, he would like to be welcomed by the sight of a clean and homey compound. Not the remnants of a massacre, she explained. As we only have around 2 weeks until they come back, we thought we should begin working soon to finish in time. After all, we have to clean the whole place, repair many houses, and plant various flowers. Did you see those withered disasters while walking here? She asked, as if it were a national offense. Well, then we better get more hands to help, I said. Have you thought of putting out a D-rank mission for a genin team to assist? That's a good idea, Sasuke-chan commented, and it no longer surprised me when he praised me. But I don't want a fan fawning over me, I have enough of them in the village for that to follow me into my home. Then my team will take that mission, Nijin-sama finally spoke, surprising us all. Don't look at me like that. I do dislike that Uchiha brat, but Lady Hinata considers him a friend and teammate. Helping out is the least I could do for my head clan. And cousin, he said, his cheeks coloring slightly. My heart almost burst with happiness at his words. How I longed for him to call me cousin once again. He hadn't done that since I was 3, and I missed it. Well then, let's start. Yue-chan cheered, smiling at me. Oh, she noticed. I thought, blushing at being found out. But I paid no attention to that and focused on the work in front of me. We had a lot to do. Use POV, wow. Now that was a workout, I exclaimed, sprawling all over the floor of Sasuke's house. And we've only finished cleaning half of the compound. Well, cleaning up after 4 years is difficult, Sasuke muttered gloomily. Sasuke, I murmured sadly. Stop it, he snapped. It is hard, but I will get over it. I need to face this so I can move on, he said, surprising me slightly with his maturity, but I felt proud at the same time. Nay, do you think that the root members will ever return to service outside the village? He asked me out of the blue. And no, I answered, slightly shocked by the sudden question. I don't think so. They've gone through tremendous psychological trauma, not to mention that we will never know when someone new will try to trick them by giving them orders in the name of the Hokage. They will more likely teach or work in administration or patrol, but always inside the village. That's such a waste, he commented, lying next to me and looking thoughtfully at the ceiling. Why do you ask? I finally inquired, my curiosity getting the best of me. Well, my brother will come back, but he will be the Hokage, which leaves the position of the next clan head to me. The only time a Hokage did not leave the position of clan head to another relative was in the case of the Yondaime, but that's only because he was the only one left alive. I felt a pang in my heart at the mention of my deceased father but brushed it away. As the next clan head, I thought I should start thinking of ways to make our clan active again, he continued explaining, oblivious to my internal struggle. The Konoha police force was the pride of our clan since the beginning of our village, so I thought of reopening it. What? I shouted, sitting up and looking at him with wide-open eyes. Is that even possible when there are only 2 Uchihas? Well, the only law established for the Konoha police force was that the leader had to be an Uchiha. Whoever wanted to join could. That most of the members that joined were Uchihas was simply a coincidence. Most Uchiha adults that began families decided to stay in the village more to raise their kids, so they stopped taking missions and joined the force, he explained, surprising me with this new information. So, I thought that I could do the same Hinata does. Put an adult to be the face of the KPF and call most of the shots until I am old enough to do it myself. And you want to recruit the old root members? I thought out loud. Well, they are the new protectors, which will help the villagers think better of them. They have incredible abilities that shouldn't be wasted on teaching or administrative work, he answered. Also, they will have the ability to stop people from plotting in secret or slipping in and out of the village easily. My expression darkened at that. It would be much more difficult for me to get away with things with the roots patrolling the village. I felt conflicted, happy that Konoha would finally have the defense it deserves, yet frustrated that my own plans would be hindered. What? Sasuke asked, snapping me out of my thoughts. Do you think it's a bad idea? I flinched when I met his trusting gaze, realizing he didn't know my frustrations stemmed from his plans to help the village. No, I lied. I just thought you should wait until your brother gets promoted to Hokage. It would surely be easier to convince him. And it would give me time to tie up any loose ends, I thought to myself. Good point, he said thoughtfully. I will do that. I smiled and hugged him, ending our conversation. All this lying was becoming harder each day. It is for the best, Naruto, Kurama said. It's for their own good. I hope you are right, Kurihun, I replied sadly. Use POV. Guy-sensei. Lee. We all groaned at the sound. For Kami-sama's sake, he did it on purpose. Sasuke growled angrily, glaring at Neji. He offered his team just to torture us. Calm down, Sasuke, I chuckled slightly. Look at the positive side. What positive side? Even Hinata is cringing, he snapped, pointing at our teammate, who looked as if she were suffering. Even kind-hearted Hinata, who could never reject someone, wanted them gone. Guy-sensei and Lee had reached a whole new level of weirdness. Well, we only have to work with them for another week, while Neji will have them until he becomes a chunin or even longer, I pointed out, ignoring how happy he seemed at the idea of a comrade being tortured. Also, Thanks to them, we've made significant progress with our cleaning and repairs. There are only a couple of houses left to fix, and then we can decorate with flowers. Not to mention that Gai-sensei is the best taijutsu MSTR in all of Konoha. He will be a great help with Hinata's training. I get it. They are helpful, but there should be a limit, he snapped, pointing at them as they hugged and released a blinding light. Yeah. I can't argue with that, I muttered. Let's just ignore them. He nodded rapidly, turning his back on the unsettling sight. Speaking of training, we are quite behind. You are right, I murmured, realizing I had forgotten about training with everything going on. Then again, we still have a whole year before we can graduate from the academy. We have time. One of the few rules my father implemented as Hokage was age restrictions for different ninja levels. You had to be 12 to become a genin and at least 13 for chunin. However, for jounin, you had to wait until you were 16, and to join specialized forces like Umbu or the hunting ninja division, you had to be 18. He did this because even if someone had the ability to advance rapidly, it didn't mean their minds matured at the same pace. The psychological damage could be significant, as seen in Kakashi-sensei and Itachi's cases. As for training, both Sasuke and Hinata had completed their basic medical training. Hinata had learned the chakra blade jutsu and taught it to us. They managed to learn all the D-rank water and fire jutsus, thanks to Hinata's excellent chakra control and Sasuke's Sharingan. I had given them new books about C-rank ninjutsus. Sasuke had mastered every D-rank genjutsu, but he still needed to start on C-rank genjutsus and hadn't begun kenjutsu at all. Hinata, on the other hand, had barely practiced weaponry during her taijutsu matches and hadn't learned any other Konoha kata besides her clans and the academies. I had finished the first and second volumes for the first level in sealing and managed to master every B-rank wind ninjutsu. However, I had yet to start on the A-rank ones and continue with the remaining 3 volumes for level 1, which I had borrowed from my father's private library. I know, Sasuke's sigh brought me back to reality. I looked at him in surprise. He was too immersed in his work to notice my gaze. The power-obsessed Sasuke was prioritizing other things? Then again, he was no longer solely focused on revenge. Maybe now that Itachi was no longer his clan's murderer, he would start enjoying life and not push himself too hard. Who was I kidding? He would surely push himself to his limits, just like me. Hey, Sasuke, now that you mention training, I found this in one of the houses while cleaning, I said, pulling out a scroll from my compartment seal and showing it to him. "This," he stuttered, taking the scroll with shaky hands, his eyes glistening. After all, even if I was acting oblivious to what I was handing him, I knew what that scroll was. It was Shinji's Hawk summoning scroll, the same one Madara had. "What is this?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "This is my cousin's summoning scroll," he murmured. "While my Aniki summons crows, Shinji had hawks." "Well, then now you have hawks," I remarked, ignoring his startled expression. "Shinji and Itachi used to be teammates, having each other's backs. I'm sure your cousin would want someone else to be there for Itachi now that he is gone. Who better than you for that job?" "Bitch," he grunted, a sudden smug expression appearing on his face. He rapidly opened the scroll, bit his finger, and wrote down his name next to Shinji's. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. "Have you ever thought of having a summoning contract?" he suddenly asked, his eyes not leaving the name he had written in blood. "I already have one," I replied. He whipped his head towards me so fast I was afraid it would come off. "What? Since when?" "I took it from the bounty hunter after he died," I lied, feeling a twinge of sadness at how easily I could deceive him. "They are foxes, and I've been able to summon them for a few weeks now. All we need to do is find a summoning contract for Hina-chan," I added quickly to change the topic. "We can't have our teammate be the only one without one." "Eichin," he acknowledged, "good point," in Uchiha language. "I know that owls are the summoning animals for the Hyugas, but I can't see her with an owl. Needs something with pride. Lions and lionesses are simply her style. But where can we find a lion summoning contract?" Konoha leans more towards canines. Our conversation was cut short when an ANBU appeared out of nowhere. "Senjuheim, Hite-sama has summoned you?" I cringed at the use of Senjuheim, but perked up at the mention of Kakashi-sensei. It saddened me to think I would never be as close to him as I was in my previous life. Still, I might use my connection to his beloved sensei to bridge a closer relationship with him, or perhaps even set him up with Irika-sensei. Those two were like lovesick puppies. May I know why? I asked, genuinely curious about why he needed me. Tsunade Senjuheim sent a message that she is close to the village and desires to meet you. His words froze me in place. I would be able to see Bachan again. I cheered internally. I began to shiver in excitement and almost fell when my knees lost strength, but Sasuke caught me in his arms. Are you okay? He asked, concern evident in his voice. Sorry. It's just that. I will finally be with family again. I replied, my eyes filling with unshed tears. Bachan and Erosenin were the parents I never had. Losing them felt like losing a part of myself. Now, I would finally be reunited with one of them. It was like a dream come true. Sasuke allowed himself to smile encouragingly at me, understanding what it was like to lose everything and later find out he still had someone there for him. He held me until I regained my strength to stand on my own. When I was finally ready, I quietly followed the ANBU towards the ANBU quarters, preparing my heart for when I would see Kakashi-sensei again. No amount of preparation could have prepared me for the moment I came face to face with a young and healthy Kakashi-sensei. It took all my strength not to burst into tears, masking my nervousness as jitters about finally meeting a family member since my parents died. Tati-sama, I said, bowing politely. How could I be bowing to Kakashi-sensei? I hate this. This is so embarrassing. I complained to Kurama. Calm down, Kit, he growled back. In no time, you will be acting towards him like you always do. There's no need for that, he said awkwardly, rubbing the back of his head, a bit embarrassed. It's nice to finally meet you, Senjuheim. If you don't want me to treat you so politely, then don't call me Senjuheim either, I pouted, crossing my arms over my chest. I am Kaguya or you. Well, then you, he replied, raising an eyebrow, seemingly impressed that I had risen to the head of the NB. That's much better. I beamed, pretending not to notice how he froze for a moment. You truly are just like your father, Kurama grunted. That smile is just like his. No wonder the dog boy is so startled. You can wait here until Tsunade-sama gets here, he coughed. Thanks. By the way, you have to ask Irika-sensei out, I said, getting straight to the point. He exclaimed, startled. I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. This was payback for all those times he had messed with me while I was his student. Well, I've heard all about the tension whenever you two are in the same room. I mean, why go in circles when it's clear that you two are madly in love with each other? I huffed, acting like an impatient child. I could sense the chakra of many hidden ANBU flicker as they tried to contain their laughter. The ANBU who had skirted me here was doing much better. Kakashi-sensei was crimson red, looking at me with wide eyes and a dropped jaw. Aye, he stuttered, speechless for once. Good, I thought, pleased with myself. You have to go and see Irika-sensei? No worries, go. I told him. I can wait here until Tsunade-sama gets here. There are many ANBU to look after me as well. I almost didn't stop myself from pointing at every ANBU hidden. The last thing I needed was to catch their attention. One thing was to be a sensor and another to sense the best ANBU squad when they were hiding. Well then bye, he said awkwardly as he flickered away. Sighing, I laid down on the couch and entered my mental plane to pass the time. I hadn't talked with any of them since all of this mess had happened. Naruto. Gar called out to me. It seems that everything was a success. It was, but we still have many things to go through. Finding and stopping Madara is the most important. We need to recover the Uchiha clan, level up the academy, release the Whirlpool country from Gado's hold, and create alliances with the Rock and Lightning countries. So many things. I sighed tiredly at the thought. Calm down, let's take one step at a time. No need to rush things when we still have time, Gaara assured me. Speaking of alliances, I've convinced my father to reach out to Amigakure and Kirigakure. How did you do that? Are you finally on speaking terms with him? I asked, impressed by the achievement. Also, great job with improving the economic situation of your village. Well, I was the Kazekage in the previous timeline, so I implemented the same strategies I used back then to improve our current situation. The situation improved much more than before simply because the economic conditions aren't as dire as they used to be, Gaara said modestly. Don't downplay what you've achieved. I scolded him. What you did is amazing. Be proud of it, got it? Got it, he replied with a small smile. As for my father, things aren't perfect, but they are better. He doesn't treat me like a son, and I don't think he ever will. However, he sees me as a comrade, someone useful to our village rather than just a weapon. Gaara, I murmured sadly. I wanted to go all the way to Suna and confront that stubborn man. It's fine, Naruto, don't worry, he said. It's much better than being hated. At least my siblings and I are close again, like we were before father ruined our relationship. The villagers respect me now, treating me as a Kage's son after I improved their living situation. He tried to cheer me up. As for how I got him to reach out to Aim and Kiri, he quickly changed the topic and I let him. For now. I told him about how Konoha, Aim, and Kiri formed a peace alliance. Even if Suna is on good terms with Konoha, we are kind of left out. I advised him to use our alliance with Konoha as a way into this alliance being formed. It will also show the council that having a good relationship with our village has many advantages, and maintaining the alliance is the better choice. I thought out loud, realizing what he had done. That's genius. Why didn't it occur to me before? Because you are a Bakagaki, scoffed Kurama. That's mean. I exclaimed, indignant. I am not a baka. Kikiki, he laughed creepily. Naruto. Gaara, the voice of Fu startled us. It's nice to see you again, guys. Indeed it is, Fu. I replied. How have you been? It's been a while, eh? If I had been out of the mental plane for a long time, Fu had been in silent mode for even longer. Good. The village is finally coming to terms with me. It helped that I started aiding the orphanage and became a genin. They began noticing what a good girl I truly am. The younger generation had no problem, but the older ones were still a bother. However, now they are much better, she explained, showing off her headband. That's great. I exclaimed. Congrats. I said, echoed by Gaara. What about the rest of us? She asked. Well, Yagura and Utakata are busy finishing the peace alliances with Konoha and rebuilding Kiri, Gaara answered. Rashi and Han have finally been pardoned by their Kage and are rebuilding their relationship with the village to help with our plans when we need them. Yujito is advancing in the political leadership of her country for the same objective. We need them as influential as possible when we plan to unite them all in an alliance. She also became a jounin recently. Now that was news. B. He is still in radio silence. Yujito knows something but is keeping quiet about it, and so are Matabi and Gyuki. A gloomy silence settled around us. I was worried about B, maybe something had happened to him. But if we didn't know, how would we be able to help? Before I could voice my concerns, I was interrupted by Kurama. Time to wake up, Gaki, he growled. That old lady will soon be in the room. Well, it's time to face the music. The pairing with more votes stays. First pairing, Itachi x Shikamaru. Both geniuses who would perfectly understand each other and stand on the same intellectual ground. Second pairing, Itachi x Gaara. Both had their childhoods taken away from them by their village's greed. Who better to understand their pain than the other? Tsunade's POV. Jiraiya, what are you doing here? I asked my old teammate, suspiciously. Don't act coy, Tsunade, he scolded me, unusually serious rather than his normal goofball attitude. I'm sure you've heard about what's going on in Konoha. Danzo being a traitor. Are you even that surprised? He has always been a power-hungry extremist, I scoffed, taking a big sip from my sake bottle. That does not explain what you are here for. It is not about making me Hokage, that's the honor of the clan slayer, not anymore Uchiha. Not that I would have accepted either way. Enough, Tsunade. I was startled by his glare. Listen to me for once in your life, princess. A great hero of war ended up being a traitor. Children have been kidnapped for years under the nose of the Konoha force and brainwashed. The Hyuga clan had a coup d'etat. Orochimaru is dead. One of the biggest enemies of our village ended up being our greatest ally and future Hokage. For the first time in ninja history, 4 villages are bonding in an alliance. Tsunade, this is not a joke. I know that you suffered a lot during the wars, but you are not the only one. We all suffered. Stop being a child and woman up. Konoha needs you, not to be a Hokage or to heal people, but to be the head of the hospital, directing the staff from behind the scenes away from blood and to teach the young minds of the academy about healing ninjutsu. Also, to be an elder. Alongside Sensei and me. The head of the hospital? Teaching people about healing ninjutsu? An elder? Has Konoha already lost their minds? I scoffed humorlessly. Having a ninja that has abandoned the village and is incapable of being near blood be the head of the hospital and near the future generation of ninjas. Sensei is getting old for sure. Watch your mouth, Tsunade. He is still your Hokage, not to mention that he is the only reason why you are not a missing ninja. He still trusts you. Fed up with Jiraiya defending Sensei, I cut him off. Like he trusted Danzo and Orochimaru? What a great example of trustworthiness. My tone dripped with sarcasm. The same people who killed my brother and had my last living relative tortured. Yeah, he really knows where to put his trust. Tsunade, he sighed, and I noticed the pity in his voice. I didn't want to be pitied. Yeah, Sensei screwed up. I get it. But he is trying to fix things. And on a brighter note, there's your last living relative waiting for you. It's not that easy, Jiraiya. I sighed tiredly, no longer having the strength to fight. Not many things are, Tsunade. How long will you continue running away? There's a little girl in Konoha who lost her whole family but still fought to gain a new one. Maybe you should try that, he advised me softly. Tsunade, you have a month to get back home. Or Konoha will be forced to put your name on the list of missing leaf ninjas. My eyes widened at his words. I would have never expected that. There's no way that Konoha would have the last Senju as a missing ninja. My family had 2 Hokages and were the ones to fund our village, the pride of the leaf. Then again, I am no longer the last remaining Senju. I did not even acknowledge Jiraiya when he left, too immersed in my thoughts. Sonya Yu. No, Senju Kaguya Yue. A village girl that came out of nowhere after being missing for a year. She caused Danzo and Orochimaru's demise and helped the success of the Hyuga coup d'etat. A girl who knew nothing about ninjas came back with a Chunin level after being held by Orochimaru. There's no way that a 12-year-old girl was capable of doing all that. Something is terribly wrong with all of this. I still have contacts in Konoha, and they tell me things. About how everything fell perfectly into place, there was no doubt. That never happens. I am still surprised that I never picked up on it, maybe because they were so occupied with all the changes going on and trying to protect the village while in one of their weakest moments. They needed an outside point of view, someone who cares about the village but has not the necessary involvement to be blinded. I have no doubt that Orochimaru and Danzo did what they did, but they are not careless. All that proof was placed there to be found. They were set up. But by who? By Senju Kaguya? Impossible. She is too young and has not the resources. Who else wanted the head of Danzo and Orochimaru? Who would help such a young girl with all this deception and well-placed plan? Akatsuki. Danzo was the one helping Hanzo all along, and Orochimaru had betrayed them. Not to mention the sudden need to make peace treaties or how easy it was to recover Itachi. Now it all makes sense. Amigakure is situated in the heart of the 5 great ninja nations and has endured the most during the 3 great ninja wars. Their peace alliance with all 5 hidden villages has made them a land where conflict is absent, a place for discussions and treaties. This context sheds light on how Senju Kaguya managed to escape. The Amikage, a powerful figure, must have captured her and persuaded her to cooperate. It also explains her decision to return Kisame's sword to the Mizukage. The Amikage likely understood that by returning Itachi to Konoha, he could also gain favor with Suna, especially with a girl from a fallen clan from the mist. giving him leverage over 3 of the 5 great hidden villages. This situation is precarious. While it seems beneficial for now, I can't help but wonder what else the Amikage has involved Senju Kaguya in. I need to handle this personally. I can't trust this information with anyone else. Konoha has embraced her innocent facade, viewing her as a victim who has brought clarity to darkness, a hero princess beyond reproach. Shizune, pack your things, we are going back. I called out. Where to? My student asked, entering the room. To Konoha. Tsunade's POV. Tsunadeheim, it's a pleasure to have you back in Konoha, greeted the shinobi at the entrance with a broad smile. Yu is waiting for you at the Umbu headquarters, informed another guard with a scar above his nose. It seems she has connections with those guarding the gates, making her comings and goings from Konoha quite effortless. I must tread carefully. It appears she has the village wrapped around her finger, but not for long. If I find her guilty, I will act. Reflecting on my absence from Konoha for decades, I realize I might have been overly paranoid. The truth about my brother's death pushed me to the edge, and I unfairly blamed a young girl who isn't even a genin yet. Still, something feels off about this entire situation, and it revolves around her, my last living relative. I hope she is truly an ally of Konoha. I do not wish to become a kinslayer. As I arrived at the Umbu headquarters, I was taken aback to find a sleeping girl on Kakashi's couch. She looked so innocent, no one would suspect the hardships she had faced. My focus was solely on her until I noticed my SUV leaving the room. She was small and appealing, radiating purity. I felt an overwhelming longing to protect her, a feeling I hadn't experienced since Nawaki. I truly hope she is not an enemy. I want to build a family with her. Suddenly she woke up, her big doe blue eyes startling me. Yes, those are definitely the Senju genes. Her face lit up with a smile, her eyes shining with happiness. You must be Oba. Tsunadeheim, she exclaimed excitedly. I am so happy to meet you. I am Kaguya Yue, your relative. The way she said that last part, almost as a whisper, revealed her disbelief. The raw hope in her eyes tugged at my heartstrings. No wonder people believed her. There was no deceit in her gaze, no evil intentions. I wondered how she would fare as a ninja. Her heart seemed better suited for healing. Yet she already knew the basics. I am. Nice to meet you too, I replied with a smile. I hope you don't mind that I used part of the Senju compound as an orphanage, she said, her eyes widening with guilt. I didn't know you would ever come back. Still, I shouldn't have made that decision on my own. No, it's fine. It was a very noble and righteous decision, I reassured her. Exactly what a Senju should do. She blushed at the praise, looking so adorable that I wanted to pinch her cheeks. Mind showing me what you did with our compound? Of course, she replied happily, guiding me through our family's compound and introducing me to everyone. I was impressed with what she had done. Those affected by the past were receiving the help they needed. No one would suffer from that man again, not like Nawaki had. We then headed to my old house, the one I had lived in before leaving Konoha. It looked just as it had the day I left. The Hokage had genin teams cleaning the place every 2 weeks, in case you ever returned, she explained. Irika-sensei and his teams used to complain about it while babysitting me. So that's how the guards knew her, they practically raised her. So, you want to be a ninja? After what happened with Orochimaru, I commented aloud, noticing how the room's temperature suddenly dropped and her eyes flashed with barely contained rage. So, she truly thinks of Orochimaru as the enemy. Any area you want to specialize in? Ninjutsu and sealing, she rapidly replied. I raised an eyebrow at her quick answer. Not even Chunin have half the conviction she has in their specialization. It is the only thing I am grateful to Orochimaru for. She spat his name as if it were poison. Seeing a pretty girl like her making such an ugly face was unsettling. He taught me the importance and power of being knowledgeable in ninjutsu. What about sealing? I do not believe he taught you that, I commented. No, but I watched the Hyuga Civil War unfold and know firsthand the power of seals, she replied. Sealing is the most complicated yet most powerful ninja art. It will be a hard path, but I am ready for the challenge. Her smile returned tenfold at the prospect of learning seals. I almost hesitated to ask the next question, but I had to. As you must be aware, Konoha's last ordeal had everything fall perfectly into place. That simply does not happen, I said, watching how her body tensed. I was right. For once, I wanted to be wrong. And everything surrounded you. Mind telling me how all of this happened? I am honestly surprised no one noticed before, she chuckled, sitting on the sofa in the living room. Do you know the whole story? I nodded. Good. That will make things easier, she sighed, getting comfortable in her seat. Everything until the moment the Amikage attacked the bounty hunter is completely true. Not that the rest is a lie. I simply omitted a few things, she confessed, looking slightly guilty but not overly so. I was intrigued, so I took a seat in front of her on the armchair. Nagato Uzumaki, the Amikage, killed Kurama in what seemed like a second. I've seen Kurama defeat the best of the best, so watching him die without much of a fight was frightening. She shivered slightly at the memory. You need to understand something. Kurama might have kept me as a prisoner, but he saved me from Orochimaru's labs. He kept me fed, taught me how to survive in the wilderness, and even promised to release me once he dealt with Orochimaru. I know that might have been a lie, but he was the first human contact I had in over a year that was not torture or experimentation. My heart ached for this girl who had been through so much in her young life. Stockholm Syndrome, I said without thinking. Yes, I loved the bounty hunter. Not as a lover but as a friend. The closest thing I had to family at that moment. I could not tell anyone about that. I did not want to see that look of pity in their eyes. The girl who loved a beast. No one would understand, she mumbled, wiping some tears from her face. She took a deep breath to calm down and continued speaking. Getting back on track. I watched Kurama die. I did not run away with his things. I was paralyzed in fear and sadness. It was finally my time, I thought. I had a good run. Not many civilian girls would have survived what I did for as long as I had. When I was getting ready to die, the Amikage pardoned my life and saw some use in me. Those papers the Umbu found in Danzo's office were given to me right then. I could not believe my eyes. So much had been going on under the Hokage's nose. Uzumaki-san then explained to me what Danzo would do to me if I told the Hokage everything I knew right away. I used to be a civilian girl who knew nothing about politics, so when he told me to bide my time and turn the tables on Danzo, I listened. He gave me the papers and told me to plant the evidence against him, she explained, quickly adding, but you have to believe that he really did do all that he was punished for. What did you gain from all of that? He must have given you something in return to ensure your loyalty, I questioned her. I have only ever been loyal to Konoha. That you must believe, she protested, a tinge of desperation creeping into her tone. What the Amikage and I had was a partnership. You are no longer in contact? I inquired. No, I stopped after the last thing he requested from me, she answered, continuing before I could ask what he had requested. In return, he told me he would have Orochimaru killed and gave me all the possessions Kurama had on him. That meant I would have the source of my nightmares gone and money to support me and my family for generations. You have seen that orphanages in Konoha are not very good. I needed that money. But more importantly, I needed him gone. I am sorry, I know he used to be your teammate. What he did to you and all those kids is unforgivable. He stopped being a teammate to me the moment he became a missing nin. I cut her off. Now tell me, what was his aim when he told you to return the sword to the mist? What is he trying to do with holding Itachi captive and the last request he sent you to fulfill? Did he have anything to do with the Hyuga coup d'etat? I fired question after question, really hoping she would prove to be an ally of Konoha. The coup d'etat was always the aim of Hinata. Maybe not as violent as it was, but the Amikage had nothing to do with it. Orochimaru found a way to break the bird seal. The sword and holding Itachi hostage all served the same purpose. Peace. I snorted at her answer. I know it is quite hilarious, she chuckled. But I think he lied to me there. His aim is peace, but he is smart enough to know it can't be achieved so easily. He wants us all bonded in an alliance, that much is true. But who is in the middle of all 5 big ninja nations? Realization dawned on me. He is planning on making AIM into the land of armed neutrality, a safe haven for refugees where diplomatic decisions are made. Yes, he does not wish his land to suffer like he did in the previous 3 ninja wars, she affirmed. I had no problem with doing what he requested. Forming alliances is a great thing. I saw no issue in helping him. Until the last request he sent me. She looked down at her lap, her hands clenching into fists. He wanted me to steal one of the Sharingan eyes from Danzo's arm. It seems that when you reach the last stage of the Sharingan, you start turning blind if you don't have one Sharingan eye from a family relative transplanted. I took 2, one for Itachi and another for Sasuke in case he ever needs it. I kept the one for Sasuke and sent the other to AIM. I thought he did that because he somehow knew or planned for Itachi to be the next Hokage. Itachi's aim is also peace, and Uzumaki-san's goal couldn't be reached if Itachi was dead. But when I found out he was keeping him as a prisoner for money and land, my trust in his cause and him broke. I will never forgive him for what he did. For using me like that. I couldn't continue seeing her blame herself like that, her body shaking between sobs. I stood up, moved to her side, and hugged her. She was a confused girl, used and manipulated by horrible men. Her objective was a good one and only helped Konoha. Even if she was allied to a Kage from another village. At least she broke contact with him. Does anyone else know about this? I asked, knowing the Amikage wouldn't speak about this matter or the trust other villages had in him would be gone, along with his plans. My team, Sasuke, and Hina-chan, she told me. After the whole ordeal, I came clean with them. I couldn't lie to them like this. Will they keep quiet about this matter? I questioned. Yes, they would never betray me, she replied. But then we will never speak of this again. It will be the only way to protect you. Good thing no one was close by to hear our conversation, I told her. The only other person who will know about this is Itachi-san once he becomes the next Hokage. He simply cannot enter alliance talks without knowing everything. At her worried expression, I calmed her down. He knows what it is to be placed in a tight position where things are not black or white but gray. Also, you are dating his adored little brother. He will never take such happiness from Sasuke. Do not worry, I will protect you, I swore to her. I will not have family die on me ever again. That is a promise I make to her as much as I do to myself. Itachi was nervous. It had been a while since he felt like this. He had only felt this nervous when he met his baby brother for the first time. He was going back to Konoha, the place he never thought he would return to, and if he did, he would be considered their enemy number 1 and hunted down like an animal. The place he had given his all to and expected nothing in return, only to have their backs turned on him. Yet here he was, Konoha's number 1 enemy, the future Godame Hokage. He was being welcomed back as a hero. Not that he truly deserved that title. He had killed his entire clan. He cared not for what that lying Senju princess was making people believe. He was a kinslayer, but until he got to her, he couldn't do anything. He would have stopped the farce long ago, but once he found out that the girl had entangled herself with his little brother, things got serious. Hey, Itachi, he heard a soft voice greet him as he entered his tent. He quickly got on guard, while part of his mind questioned why none of the guards sensed her entering. I'm a sensei, we sense people and can pass unnoticed as well. I know you have many questions and doubts. Will you believe me if I told you they will get answered if you touch my hand? Itachi looked into those deep blue eyes, and as much as he hated her and mistrusted her, he knew he could trust her. She was someone who wore her heart on her sleeve, someone you could see through her eyes. So, Itachi took a shuriken as he stepped closer to the silver-haired girl and grabbed her hand. Suddenly, all the memories of his previous life came rushing back. His death, his brother's betrayal to Konoha. The war. You truly never cease to amaze me, do you? Itachi smiled softly at the girl he once knew as a boy and loved almost as a brother. Thank you for the update, he added, referring to the information about all the plans she had been working on. Why me? Why not Kakashi? Or Jiraiya? Why? Why not Sasuke? She cut him off. Because the fewer people who know, the better. I needed Nagato's complete help and support for the plan to work. And I knew I could never fool the genius Uchiha. You are planning on keeping this a secret from Sasuke? Itachi inquired. Yu's expression turned unreadable. It was a decision she had not yet made. The last thing she needed was Kurama and Itachi fighting over who was right and what she should do. Just then, a ninja entered the tent, and she slipped out before anyone noticed. Konoha, 3 days later. Are you nervous? The Hokage asked the Uchiha as they stood before the gates of their village. You've got no idea? Itachi joked, surprising many. He had been stiff since day one, but now that he had his memories, his guilt had lessened, and he had learned to relax. Let's get going. I have a brother to see again. Let's go, Sarutobi murmured, pleased that things were finally falling into place. Aim, Kiri, Suna, and Konoha had formed an alliance. Suna no longer resented Konoha so much, and their economy was finally stabilized. Akatsuki had been disbanded, and those who had betrayed Konoha were gone. However, this peace was not earned easily. The Hokage had lost his 3 oldest friends, and Naruto was dead. He had failed Minato from the start, blindly believing in his village, only to be stabbed in the back by those he considered friends. A child had been abused and then killed by an entire village for something he could not control. All the while, that poor boy had no idea why everyone hated him. Sarutobi had wanted to protect him from the weight of the truth, to ensure the next generation would accept Naruto without prejudice, but their parents' influence had been too strong. He had left Naruto alone and confused, leading him to his tragic fate. The noise of a crowd cheering snapped him out of his dark thoughts. The Hokage noticed the whole village making way for their party, cheering loudly. How much more hypocritical could they be? Sarutobi thought, annoyed. They wished for an innocent boy's death, cheered when it happened, and then built a monument in his honor, blaming someone else for their actions. Now, they welcomed back the boy they had cursed, celebrating his return as their 5th Hokage. Itachi noticed Sarutobi becoming more reclusive and decided to have a chat with him once all the necessary procedures were completed. After the welcome-back speech, both of them found themselves in the Hokage's office, with no guards in sight. I'm passing down the hat in 6 months, the Hokage told the surprised Uchiha. You've been on a mission for years. You need to rest and reconnect with your brother. I'll use these months to ensure everything runs smoothly for when you take over my position. Thank you, Itachi replied, then tackled the ignored topic. You know I don't blame the village, right? Sarutobi looked at Itachi, clearly startled. I know you blame yourself and them for what happened to Uzumaki. But we have no right to blame them. Yes, they should not have attacked an innocent boy, but how could they have known he was innocent? We never taught them about seals and how the Yandames was a masterpiece. They are ignorant people. I don't hate them or resent them, I pity them. By the end of his speech, Sarutobi looked at the young man in front of him with shock but also with pleasure. This boy, no this man, was the perfect choice for Hokage. You are right, Sarutobi replied. Go to the Uchiha district, Sasuke is waiting for you there. Itachi nodded and disappeared in a flash. When he arrived at his clan's district, he was met with a pleasing surprise. The gates that divided his clan's district from the rest of the village were down. Every building had been repaired, and flowers bloomed in every garden. There was even a hotel, restaurant, bar, and medicine shop ready to open at any moment. Itachi took his time walking toward the main house, taking everything in. Surely, it had been Yu's influence that inspired Sasuke to do all of this. When he reached his old house, he found his brother waiting for him at the door, arms crossed over his chest and a glare in place. Itachi could also sense 2 familiar chakra signatures coming from inside, Yu and the Hyuga girl. This explained the many Hyuga guards around the Uchiha district, surely to ensure he wouldn't harm their precious head, Itachi thought, amused. Ni-san, Sasuke finally greeted him. I have a proposition. Itachi looked at him, intrigued and slightly amused. Once you become Hokage, make sure you, Hinata, and I stay together. At least as a genin team. We will later fill out the forms to make us a permanent team. Dividing us would be foolish. We are an excellent team who knows how to work together. You are blackmailing me into getting what you want so I can be forgiven? Itachi inquired, amused. You are finally acting like a ninja. I am so proud of you, Sasuke said, blushing slightly at the praise. Think of it as done. Welcome back, Enisin, Sasuke replied, a rare smile gracing his face. I'm home, Sasuke, Itachi said, wrapping his arms around his little brother. He felt a sense of peace. He was finally home. Use POV, I looked at the monument of myself, the one I used to be, and almost choked on the emotions overwhelming me. I hated this feeling of weakness and helplessness, reminiscent of the little boy who went to sleep cold and hungry every night. The boy who never really grew because he lacked proper nourishment. The boy who feared sleep, terrified that someone would break in and hurt him. I despised them all and hated myself for wanting their love. It felt like an empty victory. More than half the ninjas alive were gone, and the destruction around me did nothing to heal the wounds of my childhood. It only poured salt into them. How unfair it was that I had to win a war to be welcomed as a hero and accepted by everyone. Be careful or you'll start crying, and I don't think you'll want to answer why. Itachi's voice broke through my thoughts. I was so accustomed to knowing where everyone was that his sudden appearance startled me. I had been lost in my memories, not paying attention to my surroundings. You are using a genjutsu, I commented, noticing the technique. What for? So we can talk without worrying about someone eavesdropping or reading our lips, he replied. I'm surprised you came to see the monument. Really? It's on my honor, I said, chuckling sarcastically. Why wouldn't I come? I simply thought that now that you exists, there's no need for Naruto, he said casually, as if he weren't touching on the very issue that had been troubling me since my return. I didn't respond, so he continued, you wanted a clean slate, a new start without any expectations. To simply be yourself without anyone telling you who you should be. The gods gave you that chance, but what you wish is not always what you need. I wanted Naruto gone. I thought that if I became you, all my sadness, anger, and hurt would be buried next to his body. But that did not happen, I sighed, letting my exhaustion show. All I've carried with me during these years is now out in the open. But Naruto never died. He lived on through me. I am Naruto, yet I am not. I am not you, yet I am. I don't know who I am anymore. We both fell silent, my gaze fixed on the monument of Kurama and Naruto. You are both. Itachi finally broke the silence. You are Naruto and they are both part of you. You cannot forget or ignore Naruto. He is your past, what shaped you into the ninja you are today. But there's no future without a past. What you need to find is a balance between both of them. You need to find your present. Don't worry, you are still young. You have time. You know I did not lie when I told you I wanted to keep my identity a secret for everyone's safety. I did not come back to inflict these horrible memories on the people I love, I confessed. But telling Sasuke would mean admitting that Naruto, that the scared little boy who was so alone, is still there, lurking in the shadows. I know, Itachi admitted, but he will always be there. He will always be part of you. I know, I chuckled, swallowing a sob as tears streamed down my cheeks. He wanted to be the Hokage. He wanted the village to accept him. What a fool. That hate only brings trouble. As the next Hokage, I should be telling you to respect the position more, Itachi lightly scolded. But as Itachi, I agree with you. No one who truly understands what it entails to be Hokage wants the position. Too much paperwork, always looking over your shoulder, never sure who to trust. It's a nightmare. No wonder Tsunade-sama escaped this fate for decades. No wonder Sarada-sama wants to get rid of the hat so fast. Get rid of it? I asked, confused. Ji-chan loves being the Hokage. Why would he want to get rid of the hat? He loved being Hokage, but not anymore, Itachi corrected me. Sarutobi-sama is getting old, he's tired. Why else do you think he's giving me the position of Hokage as soon as I got back? It's surreal. Still, half of the ninja force do not trust me. His plan to repay the Uchiha for everything that went down during his reign is flawed. He shouldn't have accepted the hat after your father died. His heart had softened and did not allow him to see the horrors the people under his care were committing. The position of Hokage is a curse. I am only accepting it because I have a duty to my clan. The fate of the Uchiha has to change. They need to be treated with the respect and love they deserve. Me being Hokage is the first step. Horrors they committed? I thought out loud. You have not forgiven them for what they did? I forgave the masses for cursing me and blaming my clan's demise. As a ninja, made a decision and accepted all the responsibilities that came with it, he answered. But what Danzo did? The elders? Orochimaru? What the people did to you? No, I never forgave those horrors. I might have given Sarutobi-sama the excuse he needed to retire in peace, feeling less guilty. But I did not forgive them. Him buying such an excuse without a second thought is a statement of how tired he is and how desperate he's trying to find a rapid way out. So, you want the Hokage's hate to bring change to Konoha's ninja system? I commented, a bit calmer now. Yes. Things need to change. Kids joining the Umbu because they have the talent or genin graduating from the academy without any idea of the dangers lurking outside the village's walls. Things like that shouldn't happen, he continued bitterly. If someone can do it, it's you, I told him. Thank you, he said. About the Sasuke issue, take your time. I know he'll understand. He moved to leave but stopped when I called him out. Itachi. Word of advice, to defeat the biggest enemy a Hokage has ever faced. He listened attentively, and I internally smirked. The biggest counterattack against the fearful paperwork is Kage Bunshin. Itachi stared at me for a few seconds, nothing showing on his face, before he threw his head back and laughed. I couldn't stop myself and joined him. And for a moment I thought, yeah, everything will be all right. Kurama's POV, the Gaki was spiraling. Her conversation with Itachi worked as a trigger, and now she's depressed. You can't spend your whole childhood being the outcast of your village and go through a war without some consequences. She's been barely eating, hasn't showered, and even put up the shield of the mansion so no one else could sense her presence inside. The Gaki is a baka. But she is my baka, and I worry for her. As the weeks pass, she gets better, but it's not enough. Not even the human raccoon was of help. If only that octopus would answer my calls. As if being summoned, I felt my subconscious being pulled into the plane alongside the rest of the Jinchurikis and tailed beasts. All eyes fell on us. I could clearly see how worried they were for my kit, but soon their gazes turned to the octopus and his. Female Jinchuriki? Wait, you are a woman? Gaki shouted, eyes bulging. I believe the shock was enough to snap her out of her depression, at least for the moment. Look who is talking, the human octopus replied. So, that's why you've been hiding? The human raccoon thought out loud. I can sense another's chakra inside of you, though it's faint. You have a child recently. You couldn't enter the plane while you were P.R.T. You did. Congratulations. Gaki exclaimed, eyes shining with happiness. Soon, the human octopus was showered with praises and congratulations. Who is the father? The human monkey asked, and silence reigned in the plane. Hey, the human octopus answered, and everyone's jaws dropped. Your brothers? Gaki shouted, falling on the floor from how hard she was laughing. Husband. And we were never related by blood, the human octopus shouted back. Do you know how hard it is to have two sets of memories so different? But Gaki was not listening. No one really was, too busy laughing at the irony of destiny. It did not matter. It brought back my kit's smile, so the human octopus humiliation was more than worth it. Sasuke's POV. It took a couple of weeks for Nii-san and me to get used to a sense of familiarity. I might have forgiven him for lying to me all these years, but years of lies don't get erased overnight, especially while living in a house filled with ghosts. But little by little, we got closer. I asked him about what made him feel he had no one to turn to back then, what it was like to be undercover in Akatsuki for so many years. If he ever thought about me. His answers warmed my heart and only made me admire my older brother even more. It also made me wonder how he did not go insane after so much stress. There's no one stronger than my brother, that's for sure. As for my team, Hyuga finally stabilized her clan. Or at least, she made it stable enough to take some time off to train with us again. She's been off the grid. I don't know what happened, But one day she was there, and the next she was gone. If it hadn't been for Nisan telling me she's fine, I would have gone insane looking for her. Itachi said that she was dealing with post-traumatic stress. We should not forget that she had been held captive for almost a year a few months ago. And while she might have seemed alright, she was not. I hated it. I hated myself for not noticing. How many of her smiles were fake? How much did she hide from us? From me? Have you heard of you? Hyuga asked worriedly as she threw some shuriken. My brother told me not to worry, she will come back the day our training sessions restart, I replied, practicing my katas. And he was right, a third voice added. We both froze in place before slowly turning to look at her. She looked the same, pale skin, long silver hair, baby blue eyes, and a bright smile on her face. She looked just as always, appealing as the blue sky. Stop that, her eyes tightened slightly, her shoulders tensing. I don't want any pity or worry, got it? I am no victim. I am a ninja, a survivor. I did not fake anything in front of you guys, so don't feel guilty. I have good days and bad days. Something triggered me a couple of weeks back, and I had a lot of bad days. That's why I stayed at the Namazake mansion, receiving no visits, she explained. Sorry for worrying you. Don't even mention it, Hinata told her, before hugging her tightly. Sasuke? You asked, looking at me carefully. I hated it when she looked at me like that. Next time you tell me, okay? I warned her, stepping closer to join the hug. Now, let's get back to business, I announced, breaking off the moment. We are way behind our training schedule and we have to catch up and do it fast. Yes, sir. Both you and Hinata joked together, their eyes twinkling with amusement, but soon they started to train. I sighed, looking at my team and then at my house where my big brother was, and I could finally say with confidence that I was content. Use POV. The last few weeks of training were challenging but productive. I finished the level of apprentice in sealing. Sasuke completed the C-level genjutsu while his brother started teaching him the basics of kenjutsu. Hinata began to incorporate weapons into her taijutsu and trained with her cousin's team to learn more katas from the taijutsu MSTR of the leaf. The days were long and hard, but the day had finally arrived. It was time to go back to the academy. I just really wished I didn't have to wake up to Kakashi-sensei and Irika-sensei so early in the morning. For Kami's sake, there's a child next door. Keep it down. I shouted from my bed. Suddenly, everything stopped, and then the sound of someone hitting the floor was heard. After some crashing, a slightly disheveled Kakashi-sensei entered my room. You, he exclaimed, a fake cheerfulness in his voice. I thought you were staying at the Namazake mansion or even with Tsunatama. I am, but Irika-sensei wanted me to spend the night at his place for the first day of school. It seems he forgot to give you the memo, I replied, unable to hide my amusement. Sorry for interrupting your morning plans, but you can catch up as soon as I leave. His classes start in the afternoon. I knew there was a reason why I liked you, Kakashi-sensei said, leaving the room so I could get ready. Once I was done, I went to the living room and was welcomed with a feast of all my favorite foods. Is this an apology for the noise? I asked, chuckling with Kakashi-sensei as Irika-sensei blushed. Irika-sensei playfully slapped Kakashi-sensei on the head before taking a seat next to him and replied, No, I simply wanted you to have a warm breakfast before school. It's your first day with a group that has known each other for years now. You might have a team, but it can still be intimidating. I suddenly remembered the warm meals I would find every first day of school in my small apartment, with a little note saying, For the nerves. My heart swelled with happiness and warmth. Irika-sensei truly cared about me a lot. He has always cared, even when no one else did. I will never want to replace my dad, but I never knew him. The only father figure I ever had was Irika-sensei. With a few tears in my eyes, I ate my breakfast contentedly and then headed towards the academy. As expected, there was a hush when I appeared, the Senju princess dating the Uchiha prince, the power couple of the generation. Even the most devoted Sasuke fans wouldn't approach me, knowing they had no chance. But it still made things awkward, so I hid in a corner of the academy, knowing that Sasuke and Hinata would follow my chakra. However, what I did not expect to encounter while hiding was Haruno Sakura. She was too busy boasting to her group of friends about their failed attempts to graduate the academy to notice me. Haruno Sakura, the person I despised with all my heart. The one I thought I could count on as a confidant and friend, but who ended up betraying me. After the fight with the gods, Sasuke and I were exhausted but happy. We had finally won. So, if we wanted to celebrate our victory with a kiss, so be it. But of course, nothing could ever go right in my life. Haruno had to catch us kissing and went into a frenzy. She attacked Sasuke, and in that moment, everything changed. She blamed me for everything, claiming I was a demon who tainted those around me. It was absurd because Sasuke would never fall for someone like her. I could not forgive her. Even if this was a younger version of her, one who hadn't done anything yet, she still represented the pain of my past. You. Hinata greeted me with a smile and a hug. I could sense at least 5 Hyuga guards in the academy's perimeters. They really were not taking any chances with her safety. What's wrong? Sasuke, ever perceptive, noticed how tense I was and my glaring. Before I could think of any excuse, Haruno laughed obnoxiously while her group of friends followed, clearly uncomfortable. Can you believe how obsessed that demon was with me? She continued laughing, and now I was not the only one tensing. Sasuke, Hina-chan, and the Hyuga guards were frozen in shock. I mean, I don't care what they say about him being a savior or a jailer, or how many monuments he gets. Once a demon, always a demon. And he thought I would ever want to be his friend? Don't make me laugh. More laughter followed. By now, Sasuke was looking at her with repulsion, and Hina-chan was emanating a fierce aura. Her friend nervously made excuses and rapidly left. I caught the arm of one and made sure they told everyone in school what Haruno Sakura thinks of the hero of the leaf, the son of the fourth Hokage, the last 2 namesakes who died protecting this village. I nodded at Hina-chan, and we followed her to the bathroom, where we quickly confronted her. We couldn't have her getting us into any kind of trouble. What do we do with her? I asked Hina-chan. She is one of the most vain girls I know, she replied, taking out a pair of scissors. So, let's have some fun with her hair. By the time we were done, most of her hair was short, with bald patches all over the place. She looked quite different. What's her obsession with hair anyway? I asked Hina-chan as the 3 of us walked toward class, feeling much calmer now. The girls in Sasuke's fan club believe that he likes girls with long hair. Which kind of got past when you 2 started to date, Hina-chan answered. What idiocy, Sasuke spat, his bad mood returning. I date you because she is strong, not because she has long hair. Good, because if you only dated me for my hair, mister, you would be in big trouble, I joked, making us all chuckle. We reached the classroom, and as expected, everything went quiet, but we were not intimidated. We walked to the end of the class and sat together as the team we are. We kept talking, ignoring the whispers surrounding us or the looks. What else could we expect? I was the newly discovered Senju who had been kidnapped by Orochimaru. Sasuke's brother was not a clan killer but a hero and the next Hokage, and Hina-chan had mounted a revolution and become the head of her clan. What a team we are. Suddenly, we heard the shrieking of a banshee. The 3 of us smiled and looked at the door expectantly. Just as if we had summoned her, Haruno appeared and looked even more disheveled than before. In her panic, she had taken off even more hair, and her crying made her look quite different. I couldn't stop myself. I laughed and the whole class joined in. We had to stop when the teacher started class, but students still stole glances and snickered from time to time. When break came, Haruno tried to get help or get close to her friends, but people either cringed or looked at her in disgust. Even the teachers who used to show her preference now barely paid her any attention. As I had planned, news traveled fast, and her thoughts of Naruto were known throughout the academy. The academy's piranha position that once belonged to Naruto now belonged to Haruno Sakura. And I was enjoying every second of it. Use POV, awkward. That's the word I would use to describe the situation I was in. I would have never expected that accepting a dinner invitation from Inoichi-san would lead to being glared at over the dinner table. I forgot that she is a hardcore fan of Sasuke. Well done, I sighed to myself. The worst part was when Ino's parents left to wash the dishes. Ino started to rant about how I did not deserve Sasuke and how she was a better option, and blah blah blah. I sighed and cut her off. Can you shut up? You sound like a deranged fan, or worse, Haruno. I saw her cringe at my insult. Is that what you want to be? For goodness sake. You are the heiress of one of the oldest clans in Konoha. A ninja, for crying out loud. Not a lovesick girl who needs a boy telling her what to do, growing her hair to please someone else, or dressing for them. Do you have no pride as a woman? Do you want to be just an obsessed fan for a guy who does not even know you exist? You know why he likes me? It's because I don't want to do anything to please him. I am myself. And what I am is a strong ninja. She gaped at me, only picking up her jaw when her parents returned with dessert. For the rest of dinner, she stayed quiet but kept stealing glances from time to time. Let's just hope I got through to her. Academy life after dinner at the Yamanaka was interesting, especially since I joined. Thanks to Danzo's training, he had no problem keeping up with the rest of the class. Unfortunately, Shin could not join his brother. While Bachan cured him, his illness progressed so much that he could no longer become a ninja. Lucky for him, I needed someone to look after my parents' pharmaceutical store. It might have been an invention from Kaguya, but to make it a reality, she really did create the store and the living quarters above. So, I gave the apartment to them and left Shin in charge while I checked in from time to time. Shin is pretty good at it, and he is also going to the hospital to learn how to tend to people from Bachan. Surprisingly, the rookie 9 got along pretty well. Kiba, Choji, and I were troublemakers just like old times, but this time I made sure no one caught us. It was so much fun to prank Haruno, we gave her no moment to breathe. Sai and Shino were the odd ones in the class, doing their own thing and creeping people out. Sasuke and Shikamaru formed a silent camaraderie of geniuses. Hina-chan and Ino were the princesses of the class, with Ino having mellowed down after our talk. She even started to like Sai after he called her appealing. Some things never change. While each of us had our own little groups, we all got along pretty well. We even decided to attend Itachi's Hokage ascension together. The picture we must have made, almost all the heirs of every important clan in Konoha standing together to greet the next Hokage. Hina-chan had to take her place next to the clan heads, and I stood next to Sasuke on the stage as Itachi received his cape and hat. I never thought I would enjoy someone else's Hokage ascension, let alone be glad about it. All in all, I had a very good year in the academy. Hinata's POV, graduation came faster than I expected. I woke up to a feast and the whole clan congratulating me. My team had reached the top position of the class, breaking every record set by the academy that had nothing to do with age. Yu was the rookie of the year, Sasuke was in second place, and I was in third place, the second strongest girl in the class. However, I did achieve the highest marks a Hyuga has ever had at the academy, and I was very happy about that. It was all thanks to Yu's training. But what made me the happiest about graduation day was that Haruno was not graduating with us. I couldn't believe she couldn't withstand a month in the academy without people fawning over her. What a joke. I'm normally very kind, but what she said about Naruto-kun made me very angry. Her acting as if she was ever important made it worse. People were only kind to her because her mom was on the council, and after the third fired her, no one had to deal with the Harunos any longer. What a noisy and annoying family they are. But I wouldn't let them ruin my day. Today, I was being skirted as always, to the academy to find out our teams and teachers. Excited, Lady Hinata? Nijinizan asked me as we walked towards the academy. I smiled at him, warmed by the fact that he took a day off to be with me for such an important day. Yes, I am, I answered. I know that normally one would be nervous, but I already know who will be in my team. Perks of having the Hokage's little brother as a best friend, Nijinizan replied, making me chuckle. Here we are. He stopped right in front of the academy. Are you still going to the Uchiha compound afterward? I am. The Hokage said he had something prepared for us. I told him. Okay, he said. Then, before I leave, once again, congratulations on your graduation, Lady Hinata. You have brought honor to us all. Thank you, I replied, tears forming in my eyes, but I did my best not to let them fall. If he only knew how long I had waited to hear those words. I have to go in. See you later, I rushed inside before he could see me crying and found my team. We all sat together. Hey! Happy tears? You asked. Happy tears, I answered. Aichin, Sasuke replied, which I knew meant good in Sasuke language. By the way, I've got something for you guys, you told us, taking out 3 pearl bracelets, one with red thread, one with teal thread, and one with purple thread. I know I told you, Hina-chan, to return the bracelet when you no longer need it, which you did, but now that we will be an official team, I thought that maybe we could all have one. A team thing? I asked. A team thing, she replied. Ichin, Sasuke said. Good. You exclaimed excitedly, giving him the red one, giving me the purple one, and she kept the teal one. Attention class. Irika-sensei entered the classroom, and everyone went silent. It's time to know your teams, he started. But while he was talking, I could hear a few students whispering about a teacher having been caught as a spy for the deceased Orochimaru. I raised an eyebrow, surprised. Who would be foolish enough to stay after their emperor is dead? As for Team 7, Kaguya Yue, Hyuga Hinata, Uchiha Sasuke, I cheered internally, high-fiving you. Your teacher will be Mitarashi Enko. You froze. She then turned to Sasuke and hissed, What is your brother thinking? Is he trying to kill us? That crazy snake will eat us alive. She can't be that bad. I tried to calm her down as I kept listening to the sensei announce teams. Sai, Kiba, and Shino ended up together, as did Choji, Ino, and Shikamaru. She was trained by Orochimaru, she hissed. Sasuke warned us, we need to be prepared. Goodness, it was supposed to be a good day. I aimed internally, hitting my head on the desk. Before you could open her mouth, Itachi beat her to it. Enko is the best teacher you could have. Thanks to her training with Orochimaru, she has a long range of ninjutsu and knows taijutsu and kenjutsu. Not to mention she spent years studying sealing to try and figure out a way to break the seal Orochimaru put on her. Which is no longer needed as I killed him, but still, she is pretty decent. She covers all the bases and still needs to teach at least one genin team, Itachi explained, and you grumbled, not happy that he was making sense. And if you can survive Enko, you can survive anything. That I promise you. Preach, you said. As for why I called you here, congratulations on your graduation, he said, presenting them with a feast and giving Hinata a scroll. I heard that you are the only one without a summoning familiar, and from what you has been saying, you are quite the lioness. Thus, Hina-chan will finally get the lions she deserves. You cheered, jumping excitedly. Sasuke shook his head, amused, and called out, Dobe. Shut it, team, you snapped, making everyone in the room freeze for a moment. This is Hina-chan's moment. Let her have it. Sasuke grunted, but his mind was elsewhere. He knew you was hiding something and his brother was in it too. He noticed the concerned look he sent her way. He would find out what it was today. He would no longer have them lie to him. Okay, here I go. She opened the scroll and saw 5 names written already. She bit her finger and wrote hers in the 6th slot. That's it. It is for now, Itachi replied. Enko will help you summon them and create a bond with them, just like I did with Sasuke and his hawks. Now let's eat. You must be all hungry. No, Sasuke spoke up, surprising them all. We will not eat, we will speak. Color us shocked. Sasuke, Uchiha wants to talk? Why is it that I've been hearing lies coming out of your mouth lately? Or that each day that passes, you remind me more and more of Naruto? Maybe others don't notice because they never really paid attention to him, but Hinata and I did. We did because we cared in our own way. Hinata had a crush on him. And he was like me, all alone and without a family to rely on. So, tell me, why? You looked at her teammates and sighed. She knew she could no longer lie to them. They were too close for them not to notice when she relaxed. And allowed herself to act more naturally, more like herself. She was not Kakashi-sensei, always with the walls up, keeping people at a distance. She needed people close, even if only a few. So, she took a step closer and grabbed their hands. No words were needed. You knew it was done when her friend's eyes were filled with disbelief. Sasuke disappeared without a word, as Hinata's eyes filled with tears and hugged you as if her life depended on it. Nair. You. Oh Kami. I am so sorry this happened to you. Hinata apologized, letting you cry on her shoulder. Itachi looked at them sadly and offered them Sasuke's room, where they laid down and cried themselves to sleep. Later that night, Sasuke returned, his Sharingan activated. It must have come back with his memories. Itachi noticed the blood on his hands and knew whose it was, but he said nothing and pointed to the room where the girls were. Sasuke just washed his hands and hugged you before falling asleep. When the three woke up the next morning to the news of Sakura Haruno's death, no words were needed. They simply got ready, had breakfast, and left to meet up with Enko-sensei, all three feeling much better, as if a weight had been lifted off their shoulders. Use POV. Having told my team about coming back in time has truly been a relief. Haruno being gone has truly been a relief. I no longer wake up in the middle of the night screaming, afraid that she might have harmed Sasuke again. It also had other perks. I can finally go all out in training as they have their own memories of the future and can keep up with me. Hinata no longer had a crush on me, but on Niji now. And as for Sasuke, well, being in a relationship when our minds are about 18 and our bodies are 12 is complicated. But we go on many more dates and share more moments together. As for our genin test, we did not have one. It seems that we didn't need one when we had created and won the Hyuga Revolution, survived Orochimaru's experiments and training, and reopened the Konoha Police Department, running it smoothly with ex-root members. As for training, it is intense. Enko-sensei is strict, but at least she is taking an interest in teaching us properly. Thanks to her, Hinata has mastered every water ninjutsu, Sasuke has completed all lightning ninjutsu, and I have learned every wind technique. We have also started training our second chakra nature. Sasuke and I practiced fire ninjutsu around CB level while Hinata trained her wind techniques. Hinata even managed to summon her pride and command them. That's my girl. Things have been good. Even the weekly conference at the spiritual plane has been productive. Yagura told me that he found Zabuza and Haku, who are now Jounin of the Mist. One less thing to worry about during the fateful future mission, yet it made me wonder what awaits us when we face Gato. The weekly conferences were not attended only by the previous Jinchurikis and tailed beasts. The Uchihas joined via Sharingan after Sasuke had his surgery. Thank goodness I had foreseen this and had another Sharingan ready in case Sasuke's Menjikyu ever awakened. Now neither brother had to worry about going blind. During those conferences, I noticed how close Gaara and Itachi seemed, but I did not comment on it. On the bright side, B tells us that she convinced A to join the alliance, and Rashi mentions that the Rock will too, if only not to be excluded. Many problems will surely arise, but for now, they are happy to have made progress and will cross that bridge when the time comes. Team 7, Itachi's voice snaps me back from my thoughts and reminds me of where I am, the mission hall. I believe it's time for you to have your first C-rank mission. Your mission will be to escort Tazuna back to the land of waves. Just like last time, the drunkard entered the hall and insulted us. The demon brothers attacked us. However, this time we worked as a team and finished them together. After an interrogation, we decided to continue the mission. However, the issue arose when we reached Tazuna's house. It was then that I noticed. Sasuke, Hinachan, he is here, I whispered to them, scared, even if I would never admit it out loud. Who? Hinachan asked, confused, as Sasuke tensed in understanding. Madara. After you shared the news, Team 7 worked automatically. They trained, protected Tazuna and his family, and you had a long and thorough talk with Inari. They also had every single summon scouting the area. This was Madara, and they were taking no chances. Why was he here? What was he planning? They did not know, and that scared them the most. Things had changed so much already, and they had been capable of facing those changes, but would they be able to win against their biggest enemy? Against Madara? Those thoughts kept you awake at night. You need to calm down, Dobe. Sasuke comforted her, wrapping an arm around her as they sat on the porch. Remember that the Madara we faced is not the Madara we will meet. He was not resurrected or possessing the beast of 10 tails. Why did he come out now? For a year, I looked for him everywhere and found nothing, and now, out of the blue, he decides to come for me. There's something not right here, you mumbled into his chest. It is not out of the blue. You might have deceived everyone, but he knows you were the one who killed his allies, who killed his puppet Toby. He stayed in the shadows, biding his time, but you only made it worse by bringing prosperity to the Leaf and creating an alliance between all the nations. He must have gotten desperate or simply waited for you to leave Konoha to attack you. Maybe, you replied, not entirely convinced. Though it did not matter what any of them thought, they would find out the truth tomorrow. Did it happen already? Hinata asked you as she watched Tezuno work on the bridge. Yes, my clone fought off the thugs and beat them. Inari convinced the people to fight back and protect the village while the bridge is getting finished, you answered. I left my clone there just in case. Good, the Hyuga replied, kunai in hand. They all tensed. They sensed him coming. Madara was there. It's time, Kit, Kurama growled, his chakra cloaking you. Good thing Enko confused it with Yu's Kekkei Genkai. Let's finish this. You growl back. Before any of them could do anything, Madara moved faster than lightning and attacked everyone on the bridge, knocking Enko-sensei and Tazuna out. Luckily, you had picked up her father's flying thunder god technique. She was still far from being as fast as her dad, but it was enough to avoid Madara's attack. After getting away, she rapidly activated the ceiling trap she had hidden on the bridge. She knew it wouldn't work forever, but it would give her enough time to heal her team and get Enko and Tazuna to safety. Once Madara was trapped, she used a portable healing seal on her teammates and transported her sensei and Tazuna away from the battlefield, using a shield seal to keep them protected just in case of an attack. When she got back to the bridge, Hinata and Sasuke were locked in close combat with Madara. The villain's Sharingan was still superior and saw everything coming, but you knew her teammates and anticipated what was coming. It was something not even Madara would have expected. Just as expected, Hinata proceeded to use the 8 trigrams palms revolving heaven technique while Sasuke added the famous fire release, great fireball technique of the Uchiha clan, creating a dome of fire that later formed a hurricane of flames, sending Madara flying into another trap of hers. Without waiting a second, she infused Kurama's chakra with hers and sent a big ball raisin shuriken, the seal trapping the explosion inside so the bridge would not be harmed by the technique. They did not lower their guard. They had seen the horrors this man had caused to know better. But they did take a breath. That was their mistake. He took out Hinata first, using Sasuke's sword to do it, the villain. He then sent Sasuke flying off the bridge, leaving him alone with you, just as he had been waiting all along. He was bloody and battered but still had enough strength in his Sharingan to trap you. I don't know what happened, I honestly don't care. What I know is that I failed because of you, Madara spoke for the first time. How did you know? You inquired, struggling to get free. I studied the moon seal enough to know when something changes. The day I see a change, Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, is dead, and conveniently all the other tail beasts died with him. Then all my allies start to die one by one, and the Leaf comes to another golden era, he chuckled. Coincidences? I don't think so. They used you tried to reason with him, trying to buy some time for Sasuke to come and save her or for Kurama to free himself from the control of the Sharingan. It was Zetsu's plan all along. He was the one who had my brother killed and cultivated my hate and rage. Madara cut her off. I know. Oh, don't look at me like that. I was furious at first. But at the end of the day, I realized that my anger did not start or end with my brother's death. It went deeper, and Zetsu was a means to an end. You are a monster. You growled, her eyes shining like a fox. Speaks the one with a demon within her, Madara laughed. We are getting off topic. I wouldn't have cared if you had gotten rid of Akatsuki or even became the one to defeat me in the future. I would have found a way around it. Ending you before starting my plan sounds good to me. However, you killed Toby, and he was supposed to be my new body. I cannot take over with this, he gestured to himself. If he was honest, she was surprised he could even stand, let alone overpower her with that body. So, you'll have to do. What? You asked, fearful of the answer. Well, I normally would need an Uchiha body, But I thought that a body given and made by the moon goddess herself would be more than perfect. Madara chuckled creepily, sending chills down Yu's spine. Not to mention it kills 2 birds with 1 stone. It finishes with you and gives me a new body. Yu's eyes widened in horror. Before she could scream or yell, she heard a voice she never thought she would hear again. Good to know I am so easy to replace. Obito spoke behind Madara, using his Rinnegan to take the two to another dimensional space. Kit, this is not the time to think about the freaky stuff happening, Kurama growled inside Yu's head. Heal the young lioness. Oh right. Just as Yu was finishing healing Hinata, Obito reappeared from the dimensional vortex. It is over, he told her. Madara is dead. However, Yu's mind was elsewhere. How are you even alive? I killed you. I collected your bounty. Yu snapped, on the brink of a panic attack. It was all too much. Are you sure of that? Because if I remember correctly, I currently possess one of the strongest Sharingan in history plus a Rinnegan. I could have easily made you believe you've killed me and made those idiots believe that you had collected my body. What better way to disappear if the whole world expects you to have died? Obito replied with a smile. Then why did you help? Shouldn't you be brainwashed by Madara? Obito cut her off. Uzumaki, you returned Nagato's memories, the guy who killed your teacher because you believe in second chances and that he was not a total bad guy. Why would you have not done the same with me? Now that he mentioned it, I made sure you'd not remember doing it or even think or feel guilty for your actions. I wanted a clean slate, a new start. Away from Konoha and everyone. Too many bad memories and guilt. But I could not stay away when I found out Madara's plan. What now? You asked, seeing that there was no lie in Obito's words. Now I will erase your memories of me ever being here and change them with you losing control of your Kyuubi powers after seeing Hinata being attacked and Sasuke being sent flying off the bridge. Blame it all on the PTSD. I did something similar with Sasuke when I knocked him out before getting here, Obito explained, bringing back Madara's battered and lifeless body. Try not to get into any more trouble, okay? I'll try, but you know me, you replied. Oh, I do, Obito chuckled. See you around, Uzumaki. And then everything went black. Use POV. Kit, hey Kit. Snap out of it. Kurama growled, waking me up. Yue-chan, Hinata called out, relieved, with Sasuke by her side, also relieved. What happened? Right. I lost control after seeing my teammates almost get killed. It was too much like war. I sighed, relief flooding my body. It's over, I said. Yeah, it is, Sasuke told me softly, a proud smile on his face. When I got there, Madara was already dead, and Gato's gang was getting closer. So, while the two of you rested, I finished them off. Enko-sensei says that as Gato is now dead and the town will have no more problems, we can return home. The mission is over, Hinata explained. Don't worry, I remembered your plan and went to where Gato kept his money and left it to the island with a plan to rebuild the place to make it more popular for tourists. And it might take some time, but your plan of having Gato's shipping company as a public enterprise of the Land of Waves might be possible. It did help that Enko-sensei faked Gato's signature on the deed, giving it up a week before his death, Sasuke added. So, it's truly over, I sighed happily. It's over, Hinata echoed. Over, Sasuke replied. We won, Kit, Kurama told me. We won. It got even more serious when we passed the Chunin exams on our first try, the first rookie team to do it since the Sannin. Even though Niji, Shikamaru, and Gaara also passed, the focus was on us, the 3 Oni of the Leaf. We all laughed when we heard that name, but took it with pride. Especially you, who once faced disdain but was now admired. We knew the council would fear our power and friendship, and they would try to keep us apart. So, we signed the papers to make our team permanent as soon as we received our Chunin vests. We never regretted our decision. We excelled in every mission and became a team to be respected in Konoha, living up to our nicknames. Even when we had to step back, we had no regrets. We had a good run, and it wasn't as if we stopped being ninjas altogether. Hinata finally stepped up completely and took her position as head of the Hyuga clan. I did the same. While my clan was small, It was time for the KPD to have an Uchiha head of department once again. You could still go on solo missions, but it wasn't the same for her, so she stayed in Konoha and allowed Tsunade-sama to retire from her position as head of the Senju clan. She and Jiraiya-sama became the elders, a much better upgrade if you ask me. You also became the head of the sealing department of Konoha, and the place was never run better. Hinata finally confessed to Niji, and they ended up married, welcoming an appealing daughter, Hyuga Himawari. Speaking of weddings, Irika-sensei and Kakashi-sensei finally tied the knot and retired from their lives as ninjas. Irika-sensei, who had been the principal of the academy, left that position to Hinata, who was doing a wonderful job with it. My brother caused quite a stir with his choice of spouse. Yes, I'm talking about Gaara, the prince of the desert. Normally, people wouldn't mind if two males got married, but a member of an almost extinct clan. It was a big deal. Then again, Gaara has a strong heritage and brings with him an even stronger alliance with Suna. And if people made a fuss about kids, well, no one could say much about how many you and I had. 10. No one could go around talking about our clans dying. My happiest days were my wedding day and the beartages of all 5 pairs of twins. But you won't hear me bragging about it. I do have a reputation to maintain. Senju Yuki, my oldest boy, is so much like my brother that my heart warms every time I see him. Silent, observant, a genius with a big heart that he shows through actions without expecting anything in return. He is Yu's boy through and through, evident in his long silver hair and pale skin. A jounin at 16 and the best at ninjutsu by far, he inherited his mother's Kekkei Genkai, with a water and wind nature. I couldn't believe that Yu was already training him to be the next head of the Senju clan. My boy was already 22 and married. The only downside was that he married a Sakura, but Kinomoto at least gave us Lee, our grandson, who has been the biggest joy of our lives since our own children. Uchiha Fugaka, Yuki's twin, is my father's reincarnation in looks, talent, and behavior. He is a pure Uchiha with fire elemental chakra and Sharingan. It didn't stop me from loving him or teaching him well. Thankfully, he inherited his mother's heart and is softer than the previous head. He is also a very talented ninja, one to rival his twin, but his talents lie elsewhere. My older brother told me that Fugaku will surpass even him in Genjutsu, and seeing my son train, I believe him. He will make an excellent future head of the clan. Maybe I should start training him. 2 years later came Senju Sesshomaru. He took after his mother in appearance and inherited her Kekkei Genkai with a wind element. He is like me, cold to anyone but family, looking up to his older brother Yuki as his idol and role model. Itachi doted on him a lot. Tsunazuma mentioned that her granduncle was just like him, so he might be a Senju through and through. He proved this once Tsunade-sama took him under her wing as a healer. He is now only 18 and already the head of Konoha's hospital. I couldn't be prouder. His wife Rin is also a doctor and PRDNT. His twin, Uchiha Mikoto, is our baby girl, the first girl of the family. We might have spoiled her. Thank every kami that she took after my mother, not only in appearance but in personality as well, otherwise, we would have ended up with a diva. I regret the day I allowed you to introduce her to Ino, who took a shine to her and trained her to be the perfect assassin they needed. With her mastery of Sharingan and control over her fire elemental chakra, she rose quickly in the ranks of the Umbu, and now that Ino is stepping down as the head, she is considering giving the position to my daughter. My princess should not be the head of the Umbu. But I still could not be prouder than anyone. Another 2 years later, Senju Inuyasha was born. With his silver hair and wind Kekkei Genkai, there was no question who his mother was. Inuyasha was a lively child, always on the move and often trying to pick fights with Sesshomaru. He was hot-headed, but with a heart of gold as big as his mother's, which I never thought possible. I took great pleasure in teaching him Kenjutsu, and Kakashi-sensei took quite a shine to him, even giving him his dog summon seal. His genin team, alongside Kagome and Sango, was the first to pass the genin test as rookies on their first attempt since ours. Yu was over the moon and so was I. Now at 18, the 3 of them were Jounin and the new generation of the 3 Oni of the Leaf, setting their sights on becoming part of the 12 Guardian Ninja. I knew they could do it. From what I noticed, this new generation mirrored us in another way. A couple formed within the team, Kagome and Inuyasha. Thankfully, Kagome had a good head on her shoulders and could keep Inuyasha on his toes. Uchiha Yuri, my second daughter, was another one who had been taken away from me. I wanted to keep her life simple, but Sai decided to tutor her as a huntress. What do you think her dreams are now? To become the next head of the Black Corps. With her talent, Sharingan, and Fox Summon, I had no doubt she would excel. Senju Kushina came 4 years later, otherwise, I would have ended up without a son. She looked just like you, a carbon copy, but she acted like the Yandame's wife. She inherited the Uzumaki's knack for sealing and spent hours every day with her mother, learning to one day take over as the head of the sealing department of Konoha. She also had a special connection with her oldest brother, Yuki. Unlike her Senju siblings, her Kekii Genkai had a water nature, and they bonded quickly despite their age difference. Uchiha Minato was a taijutsu amistad even as a chunin, like his twin sister. His strength and stamina clearly came from his mother's side of the family, as did his blue eyes and upbeat attitude. Otherwise, he was all Uchiha, from his raven black hair to his Sharingan. He did inherit my lightning elemental chakra and wanted to follow in my footsteps to become the next head of the KPD. I'll never admit to shedding a tear at his confession. 2 years later came our last pair of twins, Uchiha Sarada and Senju Baruto. I don't have favorites among my children, but these two were special. When Baruto was born, I stopped breathing for a second. He looked just like Naruto did, except for his silver hair. They were like mini versions of Naruto and me. Just looking at them brought back so many memories. Yet, I honestly worried for them. The two had just graduated from the academy, unsure of what they wanted or who they were, armed only with their Sharingan and Wind Nature Kekii Genkai. They faced a huge legacy, not just from their parents and siblings, but also with their uncle being the Hokage. I hoped they wouldn't feel overwhelmed by the pressure. This was not me. I was not one to worry or get desperate. That was my wife. But my children. They brought out something primal in me that no one else ever had, not even you. In all my 42 years, I've never loved anyone as I love my children, and I know you feels the same, which only makes me love her more. I groaned internally as I prepared for the Hokage ascension. Speaking of legacies, my brother was finally stepping down. He had renewed the power and prestige of our clan, and my kids had only helped. Not to mention he was tired and wanted to retire peacefully with Gaara. I was still getting used to having him as my brother-in-law. Hinata, Hugh, and I refused to take the mantle. We did not want the burden that came with it. Niji, on the other hand, preferred to take on the pressure rather than let the elders push it onto his daughters. Very admirable. Ready? You asked, kissing me on the lips. Ready, I answered with a small smile.